IGL as well. So he's the IGL on the entry, which allows him a unique kind of freedom in that they drone him in. He gets the entry pick or he doesn't get the entry pick. It's almost irrelevant. If he gets picked off as the entry, he can sit on the cams. He's got the player point of view. He can navigate his troops around that park better, almost. There's a lot of discussion about he could almost do it better when he's dead than when he's alive.
True.
I mean, and Merc is just such a consistent player as well. He actually has the second highest kills per round of any player at this tournament so far. And man, we have seen some insane plays from him. I'm just thinking about that Liquid flank when he played against Liquid on Bank, right? Like flanking down on that basement. Honestly nuts.
All right, and it looks like we're moving into the map ban phase now, and that information is up on the screen. So, Fresh, we'll always start with you.
So, Empire, they've got a big free map pool, which is Clubhouse, Coastline, Cafe. But they have one perm ban, it's Chalet. They've got rid of that. TSM, because of that big free map pool, they've got rid of one of them. They've gotten rid of Clubhouse.
Yeah, overall, I think that's a target ban for TSM. Usually they would ban Coastline a little bit more frequently, but leaving that up, I mean, that is one of the big three, right, for Empire anyway. And so it does make it a little bit concerning. I think just naturally, Empire have a really strong couple of maps, but what you were saying is TSM is such a well-rounded team.
They can play all seven, and that's the old narrative is you never take a Russian team to Clubhouse. TSM are just not doing that. They just don't want to go to Clubhouse whatsoever.
Ooh, cash money.
Interesting on the Bank pick is that it's not one of the big three. You are comfortable on Bank yourself if you TSM. You take an Empire to a map they don't particularly like. Empire, once again, they're going to pick one of their big three. It's always going to happen. They've chosen Cafe this time.
It's a good battleground there for TSM to start off with. All of the North American fans going to be very happy with that. Yes, we've seen some good performances from Team Empire on that, especially if you go all the way back to their dominating performances on it before the Bank rework. But how much better can they be than TSM running around with 5 drones in front of them? Well, they can't do that.
It's honestly kind of hard. I'm a bit scared with Bank because,
You're a bit skeptical on this one.
I'm skeptical because, they beat Liquid. That was great. It was a close game, and let's all agree here, that was a pretty toothless Liquid, right?
That wasn't full power Liquid, you're right.
Go a bit further back into the Six Invitational, just this very tournament, TSM lost Bank to both Elevate and Dark Zero, arguably some of the weaker teams that made it into the playoffs. So I'm kind of scared for them, to be honest.
We're going through to Coastline as the decider, and my one big criticism of teams banning against Empire is you don't let 2 of their big three through.
So is Coastline one of...
Yeah, Coastline, Cafe, Clubhouse are Empire's big three. They've got 2 of them in this veto, and my worry, I'm surprised TSM have banned Oregon. I would have got rid of the Coastline because traditionally, Empire do not like Villa or Oregon.
No, I'm going to disagree with you there. You and I, we agree a lot, and you're my duo.
We do like to disagree.
But we do also like to disagree as a duo.
I feel like you like to disagree more than you like to agree.
You know what? Fair enough. You've analysed this correctly there. But what I will say is that I like to go off of recent form. I'm one of those sort of analysts that goes, what have they done in recent form on this particular map? We saw them against Sonics, lost in OT. Managed to throw that and essentially choke in those last couple of rounds to bring them that map win. They lost that map. Yes, they won on the next 2 maps, but on that specific map. And then we spoke about M&M beating them. James had brought it up before. Guess what? M&M beat them 7-1 on Coastline. You're telling me this is one of their top 3 best maps, and they lost 7-1 to a team that hasn't even played a single match in EUL yet? That's a dangerous, dangerous stat.
Do you know what, Jess? I will give you that. I will give you that.
I mean, it's facts, so you can't not give it to me.
I can't disagree with the facts. But my point remains is that when a team is good on a map that has been good, think all the way back to when Empire were in the grand final of Six Invitational. That was the longest Coastline ever. Do you know what I mean?
22 rounds of Coastline.
They've been a top team on this map for what, 3-4 years? It's like that doesn't.
I think the rework might have, jutted them a little bit.
All right. We're going to break these 2 up here. Dev, let's take a deeper dive into the first map, and we have a graphic up, and just see how these teams have performed on it.
Yeah, so this is Bank, our very first map of the tournament, and the first map of the day, and as you can see, Empire haven't actually played this at the Six Invitational so far, and I think TSM are banking on, hopefully, Empire not really liking it that much. The thing is, Empire have only banned it twice. In fact, more teams ban it against Empire than they ban it themselves. TSM have had some great results like beating Liquid, but also some big losses like losing to Elevate and Dark Zero. So in my view, TSM are going in blind. This is a very risky pick for them.
The way the map plays out, it should be good for Empire because Empire are slow, they're methodical, they clear the map. But the map sometimes plays out a little bit, especially with the roaming presence that you can have on Bank. That's the bit that Empire struggle with. So if TSM are expecting to just turtle onto site, then Empire will have their number. But if TSM are getting inactive, the roaming, particularly on the basement site, on the open area site, they're getting across, they're getting upwards vertical, I think Empire will find it hard.
I think they're going to bite off more than they can chew if they aren't expecting Merc to come up blue stairs, come around from the back. You know what? There's only so many drones to watch so many flanks. I'm just saying that I think TSM has a good read on the map. I think they'll understand exactly how to manipulate the empty spots of Team Empire. I'm worried for our EU team, of which I would usually be, coming to bat for.
Oh, man. Y'all, I'm nervous.
Yeah.
Okay, our teams are ready to go. There was 20 teams, now there's 4. Who is going to the grand final? Who is going all the way? Who is winning the upper bracket final? Blue and Stokes, take it away. That rhymed. Yeah, it did.
Thank you very much, Jackie. And it is time, ladies and gentlemen. The upper bracket finals are ready to rock and roll here at Six Invitational 2022, and we could not have asked for a better matchup. Team Empire hailing from Russia, and on the other end, TSM FTX from North America. These two teams have battled their hearts out and had a near flawless performance up until this point of the tournament, but one has to fall. One has to go down the lower bracket and face off against the best that LATAM has to offer to be able to make it back. Who will it be? Well, we're going to be finding out at some point here over the next few hours. Stokes will be with me here as usual. Stokes, let's talk about your thoughts on this matchup as we get ready to go live with our first map on Bank.
We have an absolute siege classic ahead of us, ladies and gentlemen. It's North America. It's the EU. Well, who can possibly take it here in the upper bracket? And to make matters even better for you and I, John, we have a mystery on our hands. What can Empire produce on Bank up against TSM? Luckily enough, we don't have to wait very long to get into this. The energy in the room, you can cut it with a knife. My heart is pumping. I am so unbelievably ready to get into this, and we're already starting off with some spicy things. 0's off the board.
0 off the board. We're going to see Empire try and deny that intel gain that we so often see attackers try to go for, specifically for North American teams, especially with TSM being no exception to that. Hibana going to be our second follow-up, the most common heart breacher in the meta right now. It's probably as well one of our top band operators on the attacking side. She's just far too universally useful, especially with the more recent change to the way that her pellets work, as you could pick and choose how large of a hole you want to make and where exactly you want to put it down. Things will look pretty normal on the defensive side to start things out, as Mira will be our first ban there. You guys know how that one goes. She's been the pick of the litter for some time, and the same can be said for Valkyrie. Once again, our most banned operator overall from this event that will continue to stay true here on our second to last day.
And this is indeed going to be TSM's map pick as well, which means Empire got to pick the side they wanted to go to, and they chose defense. The side right now that's favorable on Bank happens to be offense, so there's probably some things in the cards that we're going to see here. Extremely excited to see how we start off. We're going downstairs to lockers and CCTV, and not only that, we also have Dan on the vigil. We'll see if he sticks to that, especially with Shepard on this castle. We could be looking for a roam strategy to start things off, but they're already starting to throw the curveballs at us. It's going to be Capcan for the defense.
The roam game is something that you guys at home are definitely going to be wanting to focus on. You heard Fresh talk about it towards the tail end of the death segment there. Empire has been struggling to properly detail those on pretty much all the sites here across some of the other maps as well. And obviously, since they have not played into Bank, we don't necessarily know what to expect. We know for a fact, though, there's been a lot of talk behind the scenes. Empire don't necessarily like to go into this one, but at the same time, could have been saving some pocket strats for this point in the tournament now that they're nearly at the bitter end of it here. So TSM's got their work cut out for them. Thankfully for the TSM fans at home, the statistics look good for them, especially in their last matchup versus Team Liquid. They dominated inside of the early round with an average across the entire team of plus 2.4 when it comes to their opening kill ratio. So TSM should be in good straits there, but let's take a peek now as the round's about to get started for real, and we'll see what exactly Empire can offer us.
Renee, you're going to be looking to Bolo to have a huge game here, just like he did up against Liquid. As John was saying, this man went truly nuclear. Plus 15 on his KD spread. We'll have to see how they want to start off, but you could say very similar things for Empire as well. As Shepard, the hard breach, hard support for Empire, topping the frag department as well at plus 13. Truly electric stuff here on the board for us, ladies and gents. But as we get 30 seconds in here, we'll see TSM starting to prioritize the north end of the map and begin this clear on the top floor.
Dan's going to create a nice little matrix for himself to play into here. Still 2 of those EDDs to go down as well. One more complete kill box he can make for himself. Is keep in mind, you can stack those now. If it's been a while since you watched Siege, that's the possibility of taking a player down outright if they waltz through the wrong door. And we've seen that happen at least once here. I believe I remember the Sonics unfortunately fell victim to it some earlier point in the tournament. Bolo, not to be the case today, as he manages to catch at least one of those set up towards the meeting room doorway as they're well on their way to clearing out this upstairs hold, and specifically Dan's position, as you can see the Jackal track forcing forcing him back down the main staircase.
And although unbeknownst to TSM, they actually have a fantastic lineup for this clear of Bank. Although Empire will be on the roam, there's easy intel now for Bolo with those Inox scans going through and being able to get some extra info, especially onto Dan's location as they continue to try and hold down open area. Still have another person inside of Kitchen as well, as we're about halfway through here. So does Empire want to continue to hold on to this, especially as TSM begin to coil around this side of the map? Bolo trying to be aware of anyone rotating up top. They've got a good read on Dan, as Bolo's going to take a lot of heat from the main stairs.
Back away smartly, though, realizing once again that a potential pinch could have been coming his way if he chose to stick around the first floor landing area. So the position from Empire is going to remain strong, because not only do they still have Dan in place, but at the same time, a second member of their team sits closer to open area as well. Scyther in for the assist. This is perfect delay coming out for the Empire roster right now. And that whiff grenade you may have seen getting chucked to the castle barricade has only held back the clear from TSM even further. Down to the last minute, though, Empire seem fully satisfied with the time they've wasted away, so Scyther and Dan are going to curl back into the site through the open hatch and be able to play out these remaining 50 seconds, choosing to take their position of the fact that TSM are not going to have enough time to clear this one out. And there we go. There's the traps working out perfectly for Empire, as Dan's going to catch Chala now that TSM are panicking to get into the site with enough time.
You have to check those door frames, but on low time, it's the last thing you're thinking about on the offensives. Anyone could be anywhere in the moment, and now with 30 seconds remaining, TSM have to try and force themselves upon this site. The only issue is they don't have the time to try and pull all of these smokes away from Always. They have to try and find a different plant spot. Luckily enough, Geo is going to open up the far side of the CCTV space as Bolo will rotate back across to be ready for a red drop here as they try and put pressure on these players.
Gonna try to swing it in here. The shot's coming in to try and mask the players in. Geo will at least get to start his first plant attempt. Nitro is available and properly utilized. The 2-for-1 shade exchanges it out. Empire try to force their way back in, and they succeed as they hold the line on round number 1, taking the lead against TSM.
A fantastic Lockers defense that was led off by that roam on the top floor that slowly bled down into open area. Fantastic rotations out of Empire to hold back TSM. Bolo has been the spearhead for this team so often for them on their offensive sides, and with him taking so much damage early on, he can't achieve the same results. It's impossible to try and gunfight these people when you're such low HP. So they have to try and find a different way to do it, and it just simply doesn't work out, especially with those EDDs catching some people off guard and picking off bodies early.
Perfect time delay over the course of that first 2 minutes, especially coming in from Empire. See that great flick from Joystick as well to catch maybe the last little wrinkle coming in through the primary basement hatch. Be able to try and force TSM into the site, which did not work at all. They did not have enough time for the clear or the site access, let alone trying to gather that proper amount of intel. So we saw, even before they worked their way in there, Chala unfortunately falling due to him not checking the doorways, and more specifically the EDDs. Perfect play from Empire. But now things are going to get a little bit more difficult. They can't necessarily rely on a straightforward plan of falling back into the site here, because there'll be way more options for TSM to assault the site, possibly even bypassing that extended roam entirely.
We'll see if they want to extend this upstairs, and they damn well should. We'll just have to see what they want to apply to that space. Hatch will be reinforced. Dan will more than likely be applying quite a few of these EDDs inside of this area just to catch some more people off guard. We'll see how often they're bringing this cap can, as well as eventually it will be played out. Even though it does delay some extra time, there is some other things in the cards that you can use on the defensive side to assist you. So we'll see if Empire does end up switching gears here in a little while. But past that, Joystick and Always will also be applying their utility towards the site with Wamai discs as well as his ADSs to try and soak up a lot of this throwable utility by TSM as they get out onto the map.
Going to be a slow roll here for TSM, as once again, they know they've got a lot of work to do and a lot of things to clear out here before they can even think about inching themselves closer to the bomb site itself. So 30 seconds used, and not going to see a whole lot transpire from that as they just start to take up initial positioning. Merc with a nice little angle here should be able to knock out some of the utility on the inside, or possibly eat up a few of those magnets the Joystick had thrown out from his utility on Wamai. Aside from that, though, Team Empire, as we can see, ready to potentially take contention against some of these early pushes from the lobby. You've got 3 different players ready to swing from 3 different positions. TSM, I believe, is aware of 2 of them, but the third might catch them off guard if they don't fully check themselves.
Joystick looking around for a drone inside of the elevator, but he'll drop off instead. And Bolo almost with a nice shot onto the E2 players, but now it's a crossfire back and forth. They'll take down Joystick as the other Empire member drops downstairs instead. So now TSM have found their mark, and they still have plenty of time to begin working this middle section of the map. Also have top control now, so look to achieve to start breaking up this flooring and making it difficult to play on site.
Yes, I'm fixing the problem from the previous round already, mainly due to the nature of the way this site is set up. I already mentioned at the beginning of the round, TSM have way more real estate to play with here, and Empire don't have as straightforward of a path to fall back into their site hold as they do before. Need to delay for way longer into the round and in way more dangerous positions than we were seeing them do back on the basement hold. And we're already going to start to see signs of that struggle. But at the same time, Empire are going to keep 4 players strong, ready for the fight. Shepard was hoping to act himself as a late round contribution here from Server and a possible rotate up through blue stairs, but he's going to get found out via a drone here, so more than likely that'll be dead. Wouldn't be surprised if we see him try to make that play a little bit earlier rather than later on in the round. But regardless, things have slowed up here for TSM. They're sitting at the precipice over by Archives, but the walls have been left soft, and there's plenty of obliging members of Empire ready to take a fight. Despite that, though, TSM cannot find another pick, which they're going to want here before they start forcing themselves in once the time gets too low to justify any more slow play.
It's been Merc with the forward pressure so far. He was also the one to pick off Joystick as he continues to hold the angle through small office, but now TSM needs to start breaking up this kitchen wall as well. An impact up top won't be able to get the initial one, but doesn't get the second. It will indeed, as they'll break that up. With very minimal time now and 0 exothermic charges for Geo, they're going to have to try and get something else done across the map. They also have to worry about this rotation from Shepard down low as he had dropped down the elevator hatch earlier on. Frag Grenade out to be able to try and clear out some utility or some area inside of the kitchen, but now it's Nitro Cells for the defense to hold back TSM even further. The case is down in sight. Bolo's dead as well. TSM has no answers, and this is looking like an Empire round all over again.
No time left, and we will see a few kills bleed in for Chala, but it's far too little, far too late into the round. As for the second time in a row, TSM grasp at straws as they try to fight for site positioning inside of the site itself, with only about 20 seconds left, and due to some great interruption that came in through the impacts, knocking out what would have been a pivotal opening that probably would have allowed TSM to flood in. Empire hold the line for a second consecutive round. This choice to start on the defensive side is working out perfectly for them right now, as TSM have no answers to get themselves into the site quickly enough.
This has actually been such an insane defensive side from Empire so far. I know we're only 2 rounds deep, but just look at the way that they hold their map control. That's the biggest thing right now. They're delaying time for TSM through this means. And the biggest thing is these mid-round audibles, these drops downstairs, these rotations down low, all these different things that Empire are doing. This causes question inside of the TSM lineup. You don't know necessarily what you're supposed to be doing in the moment because they could be anywhere. You don't have the information like we do here in order to tell you what's happening on the Empire side, so they're continually, like John was saying, grasping at straws, trying to find these Empire bodies, but they simply can't do it. Empire lose Joystick early on, but what did TSM get for that? Literally nothing.
Free access to Archives is pretty much about it, but even from there, weren't able to do anything with it. The wall was left soft, so they couldn't freely use the room, nor try to open it up as an access point, as it simply would have become a choke point into Empire's favor, as we even saw that later in the round when I believe we saw Dan or Shepard able to pick up that first exchange, which was the beginning of the end of TSM's attack in those final 30 seconds. Empire now move to their tertiary site, which is going to be the second floor hold here, as they go up to the inside of meeting for themselves. We'll see how this pans out for them as the operator labs get changed slightly as well. Most notably, Dan coming into this round here with the Echo, bringing those Yokai drones into the fold here, possibly for a little bit of active movement to scout out the TSM players early on. And of course, those stuns help out should TSM try to go for a bit of a rush play through these window repels. Not looking like that's going to happen, though, based on the initial positioning. They'll be going for normal clear once again.
And as for TSM, they'll start things out like you traditionally would on Bank. North side as well as lobby repels up and onto the map here to try and get some crossfires towards the defense. Have to worry about the lobby space as well, just to make sure nobody is trying to man those windows. Past that, you're going to be looking for the windows on the other side inside a square to make sure nobody's going to jump out on you as well. It's a hot spot for anyone to get very aggressive and one-for-one themselves, as we've seen time and time again here at SI. But now, as I said, TSM will now begin transitioning into the building through the lone space as well as lobby. Controlling this with Bolo and Merc for the time. Bolo not really able to find too much intel through his Inox in the current moment. They'll keep Achieved on the north windows as they continue this clear, but as we know, there's nobody on this mid floor, so TSM will have to end up clearing out the rest of this as Merc goes on a solo mission up towards the top of Spiral, but Scyther seemingly ready, chomping at the bit for anyone to try and come up into this area. Merc still has plenty of lifeline utility as well, but doesn't want to try and make this solo play. He needs some assistance from his teammates, and that's why Bolo starts pushing up white.
Well, looking to get into position, we will more than likely see both of these players try to push at the same time, trying to watch out here to make sure there isn't going to be any utility he has to watch out for as he crawls up the steps. As remember, TSM does not have a great picture of what this overall setup looks like just yet here. Empire's been doing a great job of denying it. TSM's already used half their drone count. Merc walks by a potential free kill against Joystick, and he turns it around, but at the same time, Chala and Bolo, and now Bolo again! What was that as he snipes out, snapshots Dan from the side of his screen? Chala, he gets number 4, and now Joystick's left alone on an island here. A 1v3 but set against him, and he cannot maintain as Bolo gets one more kill to finally put TSM on the board.
Don't let the man warm up. That's all I'm going to say. If Bolo starts hitting shots like that, I don't know what Empire does. That was truly disgusting through the conference wall, but they're going to need a lot more than that to put Empire away here. That's TSM's first round.
Beautiful stuff from TSM, and specifically a great performance coming in for Bolo there. Curious to see how he's able to develop himself throughout the course of this series. We saw him be the huge frag leader for this team in their most recent series that they played against Team Liquid. But the interesting thing was, despite that fact, he was only 3rd on the team overall for cost, so the kills kind of had mixed contributions to the overall team's success on a round-to-round basis there. Pay close attention to that, as obviously this time he's going to get major points in that regard, as he pretty much single-handedly gives the team access to the site. But time to see what else he can do here as now Empire return to the postures where they've been able to take easy control of things on previous rounds here as they head back down into the basement.
The first one is always the difficult one, especially when you're on a stage like this. So for TSM, have they finally hit their stride? We'll have to see. For Empire, it's back downstairs. They don't trust CEO any longer, and why would they? They have better sites open, and that's exactly why we're headed towards lockers. And not only that, we're having a very similar setup here for Empire. Some more reinforcements dedicated towards the kitchen space, and this time, Joystick will be on the vigil.
Some slight changes being made there. Keep in mind the Joystick did have this selected on the first attempt here, but ended up 6 picking away from it. So now going to go full-fledged into it since they know this roam game is going to work out from the results back in round number 1 here. But we'll likely see stylistically the same type of play. Most notably, of course, Dan right back onto the cap can as it worked out great here. Tripped up at least one member of TSM and made them think twice about every single door they walked through.
As for TSM, you're really looking for the full map clear here. You want to see them take this top floor and abuse that verticality up against this roam game from Achieved. Use that sledgehammer. That's what it's intended for. Make sure you apply pressure from multiple different angles. Make these gunfights difficult. You don't want to just give them away willy-nilly, and that's exactly why we're going to see Bolo start clearing this out upstairs. They entered through this last time in very similar straits, but now Bolo with an opportunity around the main stairs. Luckily enough for the defenders, the recent map buff for Bank has made it to where those are no longer just random little bars that you can shoot through. It's a concrete slab instead at the top of that stairwell, so he'll be able to stay safe transitioning down through that staircase. Now for TSM, they'll abuse this top floor, just as I was talking about before with Achieve, but they really have to worry about what's going on over inside of the open area space. Dan, well, at least has a nitro cell up towards the ceiling. See if he can possibly do anything up against this vertical game as of right now, with nades coming in from Achieved.
He's going to bank. It'll land well, but Scyther catches it, give it too much of a window to escape it here. So Gio will reconfirm that player survives with his drone going to the inside here. It's looking like, once again, half the round gone by. They're going to pull most of this extended game back, all of it, in fact. 30 seconds earlier than we saw them do it back in round number 1 here, as yet again, Empire feel they've accomplished their goal of wasting away time, and they're going to let TSM flounder on their own mistakes here in the last minute and a half.
Well, for Bolo, he'll be holding on to main stairs, and luckily enough, Empire's opened all of the hatches for them, so this will be a fairly straightforward affair past that. What you're looking to see is, has Empire delayed enough time? Do they have enough utility on site to stop this from happening? The only stop that they have is always smokes in Scyther's nitro cell, so you're looking to see those strike true if you're rooting for the EU squad. Gio will begin breaking up the walls here inside of Service with those exothermic charges. He's already used one, but luckily enough, the other wall is soft, so they'll easily be able to get that with the sledgehammer. The smoke's already being used by Always as well, as Merc will be on Overwatch here from the main small hatch. Plant already started from Geo, but it's only going to be a fake here as Dan takes so much damage.
Connecting a lot, and still with plenty of extra time here, TSM seems to have learned their lesson from the previous attempt, but they still need to get themselves in and not lose their entire stack here. Joystick and Shepard both knocking out players. The plant does get itself down here, but the post-plant positions are going to be incredibly weak. Look at Empire rushing all the way upstairs here now to collapse against the remnants of TSM, which has already been brought down to 2 due to another kill being found by Empire. Achieved and Geo need to waste out these last 30 seconds here, and Achieve puts himself on a good footing to start this one off as he goes back to Copier and catches Always dropping down through the stock hatch here. Achieved as well, ready to stop this. They need to push back in, and it's all going to fall onto Achieved. Stops the first counter defuse attempt. Second one hasn't been started yet, but Achieved gets cut off by Joystick, and with Dan being nearby the case, there'll be plenty of time for him to hop back onto it. Another round going into the pocket of Empire as they maintain the lead, 3-1.
What a fantastic round from Empire. They know the plant is inevitable at that point, and with the damage that they've already done to this TSM stack, they know that no one's more than likely going to be holding the main stairs properly. And in fact, they aren't. Achieved is holding it from inside of open area, and yes, it's a great angle if they're going to push towards that space, but if they go upstairs, they can completely avoid you. And that's exactly what happens. Always and Joystick getting away with so very much there. Yes, Always gets taken down immediately on the entry to open area, but that gives enough insight for Joystick to be able to abuse that and get not only Geo, but also the follow-up frag inside of that space. Fantastic stuff from Empire here in round 4.
Let's get Empire using their numbers to their advantage in that retake as well. Knew they had the overarching way to get themselves back into the site, and more importantly, get the counter defuse off. Just had to suss out the positions of those last 2 players. And although Achieved sneaks off quite a few of the kills, as we see here, a valiant attempt for him to hold on to the post plant. It is not enough, as far too many of his teammates go down prior to the diffuser being planted on the ground here. Empire going to continue to rotate in the way we would expect them to as they go back up into open area for their second to last defense here. TSM struggling to pick up rounds on this first half. If they can repeat their success on the second floor hold to make it 2-4, that's certainly going to be palatable here, but they'll have their own work cut out for them when things switch over to the defensive side for them.
This is starting to become a serious issue for TSM just due to the score line. You're on the favorable side in the moment, and you really can't get much done. Empire have already grasped a hold of 3 separate rounds. If they get their 4th here, I don't know what TSM does with the rest of this. You're going to have such a stellar defensive side up against Empire on a map that is so easy to slice up from the offensive side. Empire's just done such a good job of exploiting the roam, not only in the early game, but also the late game like we saw inside of that last round. It's super difficult for TSM to hit their mark right now, especially with all of the different things that are being thrown at them, like this cap can that we constantly see. It's just so very difficult for them right now in order to achieve what they want. Although now for TSM, it's back to basics. They'll start clearing out the lobby once again here with Bolo on the lead.
Well, continuing to try and hunt these players down here. Drone's already confirmed that there's not going to be any threats working their way in near the spiral staircase, so we'll be having free reign over the front teller's area, but now he needs to get himself ready for a fight, as someone does sit behind inside of the teller's room itself here. It's Scyther. Merc already having a hard lock position on him, but Scyther nearly giving himself away for a second time, trying to hop over that copier wall there, but he'll make the transition, get himself back into the relative safety of the immediate bomb site area, and keep himself alive to fight another day. That is going to be an advance for TSM, though, as they'll clear out tellers and get that site access, or at least that map control that they're going to look to need to get closer to the site.
A perfectly timed rotation here from Empire as that timer continues to dwindle, but also TSM continually tagging up these Empire site players. Shepard taking a little bit of heat. Scyther earlier on instead of that engagement with Merc as well. Achieve now trying to break up the floor, but do it in a very safe way. That's the big thing. A lot of nitro cells downstairs could spell his demise if he ends up stepping wrong. Chala currently has control of the bottom of square, and yes, indeed, it will be a double hard breach setup here with Geo on that thermite. So they'll be looking to break up as many of these hatches as possible, but priority on the stock hatch here as they're looking to get rid of some of these mute jammers around the space. Always won't take any damage from that, but the mute jammer surely will. They impact over one side, but those impacts do not reach low enough, and Shepard gets taken out by Chala.
Utility not holding itself as strongly as it did for Empire back on the previous attempt on round number 2 here, so they're going to start to struggle a bit. Always knows he's lost that EDD, so he's got to be careful. He goes for a wild swing through the Selma breach however, and that gives away his life to Merc as TSM continue to find openings where they previously evaded them. Things looking good here for them to maybe negotiate a second round, but still 3 players standing tall for Empire in the site, and now they're going to start to frag back here as Joystick peeks out towards the square hall and takes down Merc.
So many angles for Empire to worry about, but they work both ways. That's the big thing. TSM starting to lose bodies. They need to be forceful in this area as a team. Frag grenade out here. It won't find its mark. Joystick with yet another kill, and now we're down into the 3 versus 3. Can Bolo be the difference maker? It's Geo first to take down Joystick as they continue on into the site. Dan with 1, Dan with 2, Scyther with 1 as well, and Empire shuts it down in the 3v3.
TSM with no intel and no confidence in their own push in the final seconds of the round there. They give over that remaining time to Empire and funnel directly into the crosshair of the members still standing tall. That's a perfect hold from Empire as they steal this one right out of the hands of TSM for round number 5 and secure at minimum the lead going into the second half with what's going to be a worst case 4-2 scoreline. Possibility now for it to be 5-1 if they can correct their mistakes on the second floor hold coming up on the last round.
And no tack time out here from Pojo Man as well. Just letting TSM run the gauntlet instead and seeing what they can achieve in this very last round of offense. Much rather use that once they get to the defensive side, but as of right now, it's looking like Empire could run amok here as well. The only saving grace they have is that this is the CEO defense for Empire up next, that they were not able to really get anything done up against TSM in the way that they handled things around the spiral in White Stairs space, able to get so many frags, especially for Bolo's case.
So let's see now as TSM once again going to look to try and harass their way in against Empire's upstairs hold. Things are going to look pretty similar as before. Obviously, we will see the cap can swapped away from it. Had fairly minimal success this time on the open area hold, and we didn't actually see them use it on the second floor play, so no surprise that it's going to be ditched one final time. And of course, the Echo now being brought back in for this hold as well for Dan to play into here, alongside the usual assortment of defensive operators that we come to expect. The smoke to try and choke point things out in the final seconds of the round if TSM play too slowly. Your utility mitigation split between Joystick and always then Scyther, of course, try to minimize the drone intel via those mute jammers and possibly block off a wall or two temporarily.
This might be the most standard lineup you can possibly get inside of Rainbow Six Siege. This is applicable to any site that you could possibly think of in the game. As for Dan, though, with that switch up, Echo just so strong in this position, not only because of the cams you can get around the space, that this is what I thought we were going to be seeing this round, is Dan with an extended yokai here for some extra information, but you can also use those on site for those last second delays. That way that Shepard's utility is even more paramount inside of that situation. It's going to be so difficult for them to try and get rid of both of these all at the same time. And with that extra insight that we were talking about before, you could see some extra picks coming out here from Empire.
Well, let's see if Empire can start themselves out on the right foot yet again, as they already have a dominating stance coming off this defensive side. Going to look to really lock it in with a 5th possible round. And for TSM, their confidence has sunk massively in comparison to what we were seeing earlier on here. Fast clears, fast droning, no longer the case, especially for this site here, as they want to be very cautious. Empire has tripped them up far more than a single few times inside of this half here, and they want to make sure that no additional mistakes are made. They need this second round, and they've already yielded success on a previous attempt here, so just need to rerun it one more time, and at least they can put that second one on the board.
All right, well, Geo with Overwatch from Trala here, the hard-breaching duo working square at the current moment. But TSM, at least for Merc's case, inside of lobby. Trying to make sure to measure twice and cut once in this scenario, as this round is of the utmost importance currently. The scoreline given. Achieve now with a nade out, looking for someone inside of Conference, but doesn't find a home. It doesn't. It'll just blow up on the wall instead. And now Merc taking some heat all the way up in ATM's. Empire looking feisty. Merc knows one's coming down the stairwell, but he can't win it. Joystick, he doesn't need the 1.5. He'll just slam him with a hollow instead.
And a complete switch up in the early round Confidence, and now it's Empire going out wildly here. Despite that loss over towards Spiral, Geo's going to go for a plant attempt. And look at this Overwatch from the repelled positions. Chala and Bolo executing both the players that try to stop the plant here. Shepard seemingly had an angle on the plant through soft breach, but was not going to be able to detect it apparently, so he lets it go off here. Post-plant positions are now maintained for TSM, and suddenly this is a much tougher round for Empire. We see that impact go out, but it drops to the ground as Achieve snipes out always before he can get anything done. Shepard's been found as well by Achieve, and now Scyther, he's already been scouted out due to a flank drone positioned over here in lobby. He's got no one to try and pull into this fight here. They know exactly what every single move he makes is going to be here, and with only 5 seconds left, left. He'll have no time remaining. TSM will secure the expected second round here and at least make the scoreline close as we get ready to head into the second half.
Something that was desperately needed for TSM in the moment, but now they have to have a fantastic defensive side, just like we saw from Empire. And the scariest thing is, you have no idea what Empire is bringing into this situation. We have not seen them play Bank since the EUL, and they lost. So what have they done? What homework are they bringing to the table here, as we'll see their lineup for the very first time? Dan will be bringing the Ashe. We'll have Buck as well from Always. The joystick working in Jackal here as well, off of the Yana, and Thatcher, who we didn't see at all on TSM's side, will be utilized here as well.
That was part of the gamble for choosing into this map here. Obviously, they knew their opponents weren't going to feel too confident about playing into it themselves. They've even stated that to quite a few people around here at the venue, but at the same time, you can never discount what teams might be keeping in their pocket, ready to pull out, especially at this late stage of the tournament here. This is where things are often going to be saved for, and it seems like Team Empire might have played it properly. Probably going to end up re-hosting this round, folks. Give us just a second here, and we'll get that confirmed for you. Once again, TSM now on the defensive side, and Empire will be jumping onto the attack.
Yes, indeed. And it also gives us some extra time to be able to discuss what's going to be going on here, in the next couple of moments. The big thing is, obviously, the Buck working its way in with that Thatcher. If you guys don't know, Buck actually does have secondary hard breach utility, which is something that we've seen worked into Siege within the last year here or so. And it actually opens up a lot of different avenues for your operators on offense. You're not as hard stuck to those hard breaches. You can actually end up using a lot of different things, and Buck just so happens to be one of them. Zero happens to be another that we see quite often here on Bank because he also has secondary hard breach as well. But as we know, it's been banned out here. And not only has it been banned out, but it was banned out by Empire.
Yep. So once again, trying to isolate out some of that utility that we would have more than likely gotten from TSM on the attacking side, but now no longer the case as it has been removed from the pool entirely here. Meaning TSM are going to have to look for it through some other avenue, whether that's going to be their standard droning or something else. We will have to wait and see as these teams get themselves into it once again, with Empire already controlling the lion's share of their defensive rounds. Now they'll be tested on the attacking side once we get everybody back into the lobby and back ready to roll once again. Should just be another minute or two, folks, and they'll be good to resume the game right at the start of the second half with that 4-2 scoreline in the favor of Empire.
I don't know about you, but I've been truly enjoying the way that we've been seeing the Thatcher bans come through at this LAN. You know, a lot of the times we're seeing this ace in the hole where they'll ban something else, Thatcher makes his way through, one team doesn't even use the operator at all, the next one's like, oh, well, we've been scrimming with it, so we're actually going to use it. And funny enough, guys, for a very, very long time, no one used Thatcher just because he was banned so unbelievably often that no one would even practice with him. So like, okay, we're not really going to, waste our time inside of practice with an operator that we're never going to see. But luckily enough, especially here at SI, we've been starting to see him more and more. And a lot of these teams are starting to use that to their advantage. And we're seeing it here with Empire with the way that they ban Zero, take away all of his intel as well as that secondary hard breach, and they want to use Buck instead. And instead, now they'll use their Thatcher in order to do so. And, well, guys, we ended up having to rehost things once again. We'll end up fixing this, and then we'll hop right back in. So, Gio with some funny words as well. But I'm sure you guys will hear about that later on. Either way, for Empire, once again, a fantastic defensive side. 4-2 split for them, something that we haven't seen here on Bank just yet.
Going back to the Thatcher topic, it's also important to note, of course, that while he was kind of on the permaban list for attackers, he suffered a pretty, horizontal nerf is what I would call it. He still obviously disables the utility, but he no longer just outright removes it from play. So for teams that are going to use him to go for more of a slow boil, where they would have just brought him in to quickly chuck it in next to a wall, deal with bandit batteries, and never have to worry about it again, those teams weren't going to be too likely to pick him ever again because of the fact that now they have to time that utility a little bit more appropriately to be able to actually get the full use out of it there, to be able to knock down a wall or disable things like an ADS when you're actually ready to throw nades into it. You can't just do it 30, 40 seconds ahead of time anymore as you used to be able to do.
Yeah, there's a reason that when all of my friends wanted to start learning Rainbow Six and they asked, hey, Stokes, what should I play on offense? I said, hey, you should play Thatcher because you literally don't have to think. You just chuck an EMP and it destroys everything within a country mile. But not anymore, like you were talking about. It just disables things, so a little bit more coordination with your team, and that's actually been a fantastic change to him so far. So we'll have to see if they're going to be bringing the same lineup, but hey, joke's on you, they have to. So there you go.
Yep. Looks like we get the lobby ready to rock and roll again, folks. Apologies for the delay of play here. Shouldn't take more than another minute or so here here, because we just need to confirm that everything is correct here, and then we'll be good to go as Empire have started us out with a stunning victory in the first half, at least, inside of this map here, taking those 4 rounds on the defensive side, and now looking to see if they can get the last 3. They need half of the remaining rounds to be able to succeed here and take control of map number 1, stealing TSM's own map pick as well, and taking a 1-0 lead in the series. Important to note, folks, we are still at a best of 3 at this phase of the tournament here. Best of 5 will only be used for our grand final, but obviously a big advantage going to be gained here for the team that makes it through this matchup. Not only going to get the rest of today off, but they'll also have that early game off tomorrow. Won't have to play 2 full series before going into the grand finals.
Yeah, you want to talk about a gauntlet. Lose this game, and we'll see how you do, because it is going to be a long and strenuous journey from that point on. Obviously, we have MIBR versus FaZe later today, folks, that will go off to face against one of these teams. Whoever ends up losing this, and they'll play off in the lower bracket final. But as John was saying, one of them has to go on, and as of right now, it's looking like it could possibly be Empire. They definitely did their research on Bank, and they're looking fantastic in the moment, but we just switched sides. So it's time to see if Empire have the same luster on their offense.
Yep, so like we said before, there's going to be a little bit of a difference in the attacking lineup now as Empire jumps over towards it. I talked plenty about that Thatcher, so going to be able to use that alongside some of this more active breaching capability here, specifically the Buck coming out for Always as well. Going to make things a little bit hairy, specifically on the bottom to top clears. He's going to be able to waltz into areas like below stock and open area, like working their way over into areas like archives and tellers, and be able to possibly shoot out some of this extended positioning that we're more than likely going to have from TSM to start the round off.
Now here's the beauty of this, though, for TSM and the NA fans at home. If they kill Always, we now have a major problem for Empire, and that is mostly because they only have Ace outside of that, and you have to use 2 of his 3 Selmas in order to get a singular hatch open. I don't know about you guys, but I don't think I'd invest. That's just me.
Important to note, of course, Always, aside from bringing the soft breach to the table, is going to bring those 2 can openers too, and that will make things a little bit easier, specifically when it comes to the hatch opening, as Stokes was just mentioning. That's the main reason why they're going to want to keep him alive, to try and use that utility at a later portion of this round here, and not waste the Selmas, which will be certainly needed to get further access to walls leading into the site and open up the angles that we saw in the first half TSM struggled to find for themselves here. But first, they have to clear out the extended game, as TSM is going to bring a lot of that to bear. Also, specifically over here in Tellers, we can already see one player veering out for a peek, and some good intel bleeding in there from Chala as he's on the Echo, bringing those yokai drones in a fairly easy to see place, but due to the size of the room, the height of the room, it might not be something that Empire necessarily check.
Pretty difficult in order to find those, especially since really your only Q is the audio. Yes, they're no longer invisible, but look, it's quite easy in order to get this intel unbeknownst to the offensive side. They know exactly where this man is. Merkel to smoke Joystick, as he is just not aware of any of the positioning in the current moment. Empire begin to break up the map now. Breaching charges out here as Dan will pre-fire into Kitchen, but for TSM, it's looking quite similar to what Empire wanted to do on their defense. It'll be the extended hold initially, but they've already gotten their pick onto Joystick, and not only that, it's also Jackal. So now things even more difficult, especially as the drone game begins to dwindle.
Empire being so careful, even with just their utility clear, as we can see Dan trying to knock out one of the castle barricades from up on top after opening up some soft breach through that top floor panel there. Works out perfectly, of course, as now Scyther can also swing in and have full view into the open area in case anyone from TSM was going to be a little bit ignorant to that. Thankfully, for TSM's sake, it's not the case here. They've moved everyone out of there, and aside from maybe a few stragglers, they've also given up their positions, playing this hold incredibly similarly to the way we saw Empire doing back in the first half, with now everybody returning to the basement hold with less than a minute left on the clock.
Everybody probably wants a Chala in the moment on their team as well. Look at how many cameras this man has manned inside of these opening 2 minutes. He is constantly beginning info for TSM and making it very easy for them to safely get back to site. But now they have to make the grand stand. CEO, or rather CCTV, now the priority here for Empire as they begin breaking things up downstairs from the server basis. Geo will begin smoking this off and making it difficult to plant for a time here, as does he still have plenty of utility. He's got one more in the pocket. The EMP is going to go wide over towards the actual door frame, so won't be able to stop it there, but it might be Chala instead, as Shepard already halfway through this plant. Are they going to stop it? It's Bolo with the Nitro Cell, and now Empire has to hop too, but nobody close to home. TSM win the basement defense.
Way too deep deep of a plant there for Empire, so not nearly enough time to get a second player onto it. Even if they could, unfortunately, probably would have had to lose a life or two just to get back onto the case there due to the forward positioning they went towards it. Empire struggling with the same issue we saw TSM doing back in the first half here, as they failed to clear out enough of the extended game and don't have enough time left to flush out the remaining defensive utility between nitros as well as gas grenades from the smoke. It is way too much with way too little time. And with that said, TSM are going to bounce right back here. Now only one round behind Empire at 3-4.
Well, not only that, they are full-on abusing Echo in this position. If you remember for Empire, they only used Echo on the top floor. Echo on Bank overall is such a ludicrous op because of the different areas that you can put these yokais, man. You see it out inside the lobby getting all of that insight onto Joystick, and he thinks that he's so sneaky, just crawling in through ATM. He's like, oh, I'm going to get in behind him. They have no idea I'm dead. You know, that's exactly what's going on. They need to make sure that they are backing up Joystick in this position, and they're also aware of what's going on around the space. If they continue to see this Echo pick, honestly, I would expect an IQ to come in here and try and get rid of these yokai drones because they are just doing way too much for TSM in the moment.
It's going to become a factor yet again here, as obviously Trello's repicked into it. It's had plenty of effectiveness, and there's a good possibility that Empire go for the same exact type of clear at the beginning of this round towards the front lobby. So possibility for, once again, it to be abused in the same factor as well here. TSM also bringing a huge plethora of utility on the defensive side. We've got shields, we've got nitros, we've got a bulletproof, we've got motion sensors being brought out for TSM also here. So they're bringing everything to bear to try and stop any early advances from Empire.
You just don't have your Siege Costco membership, my friend. You just got to go out there, buy it in bulk, and that's exactly what TSM's going to do. They're bringing everything except the kitchen sink into open area, and you damn well should, honestly. The only thing that they don't have to add to this would be Jaeger, but they have achieved to be able to do a lot of the heavy lifting in that scenario either way. He'll also have some proxies to be able to give some extra insight past the bulletproofs and everything else that TSM has to offer with this lineup. Joystick also going to be bringing the PDW here, so interesting pick here past the C7E, but you have a deep magazine, and that's the beauty of that. As we've all learned at this LAN, a lot of bullets in Siege is usually a pretty good thing.
Important to note, too, that Empire have brought a soft breach insurance policy for this round. 9 of the panels are going to be brought in breaching charges, more specifically to try and account for the fact that if always gets dropped in the early round here, they'll still have great capability to be able to knock out some of the top-down angles here and open up some of the post-plants that they were going to want here, assuming they were able to get the plant down in the first place.
This is going to be pretty risky for the positioning for Achieve now, just because they broke up the E3 wall here. This is one that's usually a priority on Bank. Look at this angle, folks. Look at how deep this goes. Achieved has to play around this shield, and his only avenue of escape now is through the stock hatch, but that's a big issue. Always is going to flood this in. He can't leave. Bolo's now down to Dan, and Empire firing on all cylinders here for round 8.
2 players down before TSM can even think about what was happening with the opening of the elevator wall. That's going to limit their potential to a huge degree. They've lost all upstairs presence. Empire just breathing a sigh of relief, taking a moment to themselves, as once again, they're going to jump on drones between Shepard and Always just to figure out where some more of these players are. Joystick will nearly get himself found out here, but at the same time, he's able to return some serious damage onto Merc in the process. Always going to try to hunt this player down, but he's got to be cautious too. Those shots go both ways here, and he's nearly going to lose his head trying to find it. There we go. There's the shot connecting, but once more, Always backing away from it before he can be fully taken down.
Oh, and a beautiful shot from Dan there that we got to see on the replay as well. Pre-firing out towards Banana and finding the head of Bolo all the way in checkers. Hell of a shot from him, but they're going to need more in order to secure this round. Some serious damage done to Joystick, but he's still alive and well, and he'll find some intel onto Merc, who can't get rid of that track with the backpack. So instead, I'll have to stick to this as Joystick just pre-fires through. Merc's been down, but so is Scyther. Always will pick up Merc. It's down to Chala and Geo on site to try and get something done, but the timing indeed, my friend. It'll take out Chala. It'll take out Geo. It's a flawless round from Empire.
No backup plan for TSM to specifically move away from that outer stocks hold since they lost the elevator positioning. That's normally where you'd want to see something like a mute jammer go down. We may have actually had one. Those breaches were relatively high, so keep in mind the mute jammers were nerfed at an earlier point this year. They no longer will cover the entire hall. Their verticality was taken away, so if you throw them halfway up the wall or more, there's a good chance they'll be able to sneak through, as we more than likely saw there. Empire able to open things up very early on against Achieved, and then immediately following it through with a second kill also left TSM with a shell of their their former defense. And although they did good to bleed out the time, nowhere near enough positioning to safely fight out the remaining time bank on the overall round. And as such, Empire able to eventually work their way in without losing a single player along the way. Now just 2 more rounds needed to shut out map number 1.
A fantastic clear from Empire leads us on to round 9 as TSM will throw it to the CEO defense instead. One that we saw Empire actively avoiding whenever they got the opportunity, as well it was the only site that they ended up losing. But for Merc and the rest of TSM, open area obviously not really giving them the results that they want, so they need to try something different, and not a lot of teams playing the archive site nowadays, so instead they'll head to CEO and see what they can do here. The biggest thing is, how can they effectively defend themselves against not only the lobby windows, but also the North Rappel?
We'll find out how exactly that's going to play out now as, once more, TSM move away from their previous site choice here and are going to move on to newer pastures to try and claim their second round here on the defensive side. Things looking good on the basement hold, but now they go upstairs for their third and final site before more than likely rotating back down into the basement one final time on round number 10 here. And we'll tell, of course, how Empire, as you were saying before, are going to be able to work their way through that. An easy path is opened again as we have that same stocks position lined up. Possible fallback to the interior of stocks itself through the hatch, but at the same time, just on the previous round, Empire had already established cutoffs through that window, so that might not be a surefire bet to get that player out of there if things are played the same way by Empire. Empire, of course, going to have greater focusing on the rappel this time, but Joystick with the wrong read here. Gets his shoulder shot a few times. He's going to lose about 30% HP. Somebody's returned, however, onto Geo, so it's a relatively even exchange.
Yes, indeed, and also a big change-up in strategy here for TSM as they're trying to hold on to a lot of these walls, all except for the stock position. Not going to have jammers or anything for that, as Geo only has 2 Electro Claws, so those will be dedicated to other pastures. He's playing currently inside of Checkers, trying to delay some more time, as he really can't step up to the plate anymore, as he's about 2 bullets worth of HP away from death. Empire still working this side of the map. They'll begin jumping in towards Square with the rappel still working out solidly on that north side. Always obviously going to continue to work this space, but he'll get taken down from Merc as he's got the crossfire here at the top of Marble. He's going to continue to try and hold on to the elevator hallway here, but without always, they need to get Shepard into position to be able to blow some of these walls.
Merc's not going to move himself forward anymore. He knows there's a flank drone watching his position if he tries to go any more forward here. Dan going to open up things on the interior of the site and hopefully take out any mute jammers that were positioned there as well, or rather electric claws. 1-for-1 exchange though, but that only favors TSM in this scenario here with Scythe. They're knocking out Bolo. Still an important member of the team going down here, as he is actually on the Echo this time too. So now those Yokai's not going to be able to be relocated anymore. The ones that are alive and up on a ceiling, of course, those can still be utilized, but no longer going to be able to remove them or possibly get them in sight for that late round clutcher if we see a tense plant in the final seconds of the round from Empire. Speaking of which, it's looking like we're going to be pretty close to that here, as they have their breach, they have their opening, but they don't have the player count cleared out yet. And now Merc going to finally swing out once again here to claim his second kill. Chala getting another one here for the team as Dan falls, leaving only Shepard in the fight, and he too has no idea where TSM are, so Geo's going to knock him out. And with that, once again, an exchange is picked up here. A 2-to-1 overall site share for TSM as they're going to rotate back downstairs into the basement and try and tie this up one more time. It's 6-6.
And time again, TSM able to punish Empire on the entry. These extended roams really haven't been working out for them that much. It's really been the site play that we've seen to be able to fend off this Empire offense. And what a beautiful shot here to start us off from Merc, as he just steps up and takes out the player here at the stock window. But for Empire, they continue to try and fight back. This has been a pretty feisty round that's went back and forth, but luckily enough for TSM, the defensive strategy, especially with having Bolo as well as Chala on these hard set defenders, it's working out extremely well for them. They're going to head back downstairs towards lockers and see if they can have yet another successful defense. And if they do, it's a tied ball game.
So let's see if TSM can do it, as this is the site they closed out on previously here, having the same initial round share as we saw from Empire's own defensive start. 2 rounds in their pocket, 1 loss, just on a different site. And now Bolo going to take a page right out of the Empire strat book here, as he's going to bring the cap cannon into the fold as well.
John, do you mind if I copy your homework? I promise you it's not going to look the same.
I'm going to change it.
I'm going to change it up. You know what I'm going to change? My name. That's what I'm going to change. But here for TSM, we're going to see something extremely similar, all the way down to Merc having Vigil as well. But as we all know, folks, if you played enough Siege, you know that a lot of strategies work. Oh my God! Dan, he gets blown sky high by a Nitro cell. He's just trying to put a breaching charge down, man. And, well, there happens to be another explosive on the other side of that. Kind of hard to hear through those bulletproof panels. And, well, Dan's not going to do a lot more hearing inside of this.
That's going to be a very early Nitro deployed by TSM. A perfect trap as it catches the members of Empire and knocks out usually pivotal member of this squad here. Dan going down. Shepard having the Inosh track here. He's going to try to spam him in against it, but as you guys caught, members of TSM long gone from that position, so not going to be able to catch anyone here. However, does now have Overwatch over that position, and it's the same really advantageous spot here for Empire to utilize. A very, very long angle that cuts off a huge rotation point for TSM. So they'll have to be careful here, as long as that player's on that point, they cannot use this hallway to its full effectiveness.
Well, problems now for Empire as this early pick was not supposed to go down this way. And for TSM, now they can play this out really any way they want to. Continue to delay inside of this space. Just leave Merc solo in here. He's got that ERC-7 backpack that can hide him away from drones and everything else. So it should be fairly easy for him to hold on to this, but not until he crosses into sight. There's line of sight, those holes working back onto him instead as he crosses through the open area. And now Scyther's got full control of this. Yes, the delay works out initially for TSM, but the equalizer could come back to bite them.
It's the thing that TSM are going to have to watch out for over the course of this series. Empire, if they want to be, are an incredibly patient team. They've got no problem putting Overwatch over a series of angles there, making sure their teammate crosses off the other side of it here, and just sitting on it for a minute or longer to try and catch themselves a kill to equalize the man count inside of the round here. They've just done that and are now going to need to try and forge their way into this site. That drone will sneak its way. They'll get some good intel into the players outside of lockers, most notably achieved here, but now they've got to hunt them down. And again, with less than a minute remaining, TSM has given up all their own extended positions and are just going to try to play this one out into the final seconds of the round here, as we'll see Empire move in, get free control of the bottom of blue and server along with that, and start to open up their own path towards a plant.
IQ 200 there from Joystick, as Dan will be able to man that drone the entire time and feed them intel onto what TSM's actually doing inside of the site, especially over towards the actual hall space. Yeah, you won't be able to see Gold Vault, but you really don't need to. You can just assume people are in that area as Geo gets taken down. So many soft walls inside of this space, and now he's dusted. Always picks him up, and they're looking to get the plant down now. Shepard to start it off, but no delay unless Chala has something for it, and he does. He'll be able to stop it this time around, but always will go looking for that yokai in the moment, and even if he stops it again, they still have plenty of time in order to plant this. Now Bolo and the rest of TSM have to do something here. Do they have the stop? Bolo will swing through. He downs one. Can he get Shepard on the back end? No, it's Shepard who went out the initial fight and the second one. Empire up and on to match point.
That's a huge round from Empire, especially contending with the issue of that yokai drone that even I couldn't see where it was positioned down at. Empire trying desperately to hunt that one out, put them onto a zero time plant there. If the push from TSM in those final seconds was just a little bit stronger, they may have taken the round, but the perfect cutoffs, especially to the top of the square hatch, saves their player's life, saves their planter's life. Let's get another look at that dirty Nitro cell, the way the round started out at. But once again, it didn't prove itself to be enough here. TSM failed to hold, and now need to go 2 straight to trigger overtime in the first map of the series.
So what is the site allocation for TSM? Well, it looks like they want to head back down to lockers and see if they can have a successful defense. And not only that, it's also going to be the roam initially here, but it's attack pause in the moment here. I'm assuming it's for TSM. We'll get the graphic up here in just a second. And, well, wouldn't you know, I'll be correct about that. As well, given the circumstances, if TSM didn't use their attack pause, then you'd be questioning a lot about what Pojo was doing back there. But fortunately enough for them, he's got some wise words to say in the moment, and hopefully something that bags him 2 rounds.
Yep, keep in mind here, folks, TSM still negotiated control out of 2 of 3 of the sites they played into on their first go-arounds. They're not out of this fight just yet, and that's more than likely what Pojo Man is telling them here as they get ready to head into what could be the final round of this map here, but at the same time, could very well be the start of the comeback from TSM. If they can fix that small issue there of their inner site control at the very end of that basement hold, and then return to the other site where they also found success, they're right back back in this. They've triggered OT, and with 2 additional rounds, they can still take map number 1 here, but Empire are looking strong. Their mid-round adjustments are far outwitting those of TSM right now, and on top of the fragging strength of the overall roster, it's looking like we could very well see them steal map number 1 away from TSM, who was the team that picked into this.
And that's been the scary thing here for TSM, is that Empire constantly are able to take these gunfights and find success in them. We even see it on site inside of that, where they're able to take down Geo, one of the only people that can stop this plant and slow them down, especially past Chala's utility. Yes, yokai drones are fantastic, but they're no longer invisible. They're very easy to find once you start launching those sonar blasts at people. So you really want the smoke to be able to work alongside that, but TSM just didn't have that to offer.
So let's see here now as the prep phase is going to close itself down, and once again, Empire will be thrusted onto the map. TSM bringing a very similar lineup to the table, but we are also going to see, I believe, a new wrinkle being added in here. The Cade coming out here to try and isolate out some of these hatches and keep them closed a little bit later into the round. On top of course, the Castle Barricade still delaying. We saw that before. And once again, Chala bringing those yokai drones in as they worked out pretty much flawlessly in the previous round.
Well, now opening 30 seconds here for Empire as they begin clearing this top floor. Also have some drones and some pretty cheeky spots out here towards lobby to make sure that Joystick is safe and sound. Won't lose his life early on this time around. As well as the Inox here to be able to assist him out towards the main stairs, get some insight onto the Kaid player who will shoot back onto him, but nobody hitting their marks here in the moment. Joystick will shoot back as well, as Bolo's going to be manning this door. He's going to pop it open, but this is so very dangerous, at least for right now. Joystick even fighting with the Inox on in the moment, won't be able to land his shots. Bolo going to take a little bit of heat, but achieved up and on in the moment here. Not able to find too much. Joystick going to take a lot of damage, but it's actually Shepard to strike first as he'll take down Merc.
TSM wanting such an aggressive opener in this round, and they'll finally get their response here as Scyther bites off a little bit more than he can chew. Bolo being the one to pick that up for TSM, but at the same time, they've suffered some pretty big losses themselves, relatively even after everything calms down for a moment, as Bolo still took a lot of damage from his fight, and Joystick still was nearly found out on the initial engagement there. He's sitting at about 20 HP left also, just like Bolo here. So both teams losing a player and nearly losing a second inside of the first half of the round.
Oh, Joystick knows somebody's in this space, and he's found him now. So very dangerous for the Castle player in this moment, but luckily enough, Joystick is so very low as well. So this ump can most definitely work out if he lands his shots, and just like that, Joystick's down. Dan's here to try and refrag, and he'll achieve that. He's been able to, well, keep Dan alive, or rather Joystick, as he'll be able to pick him back up. They'll continue to be able to use his utility. Well, actually, he's out, but he still has the smokes as well on top of that, and having another man alive in this situation is definitely going to assist them.
Yeah.
Bolo looking to try and find some more stuff inside of open area as well, as he'll continue to hold on to the hatch, but he's going to drop off as we enter the last 45 seconds.
Far too many losses in the early round here for TSM, and them failing to translate the kill against Joystick has only made it even worse here. 4 versus 3 as well. Bolo still heavily injured is going to leave Empire with potentially a free entry they could play for here when they try to drop themselves into the basement. As long as they can exchange out the remaining kills here, even if they lose the first duel, they will still win the round here. But at the same time, look at the time. There's only 20 seconds of it left, and Empire haven't even started descending into the basement yet. Finally, that will change. It's going to be an elevator hatch drop. Not only from there, but they'll drop into Gold Bar Vault also here. Shepard trying to wrap himself in. They don't have a lot of angles to play with, and of course, no time to open up the site, but that's not going to matter if they can frag out the entire roster. Geo's down. Bolo left alive, but he doesn't even see any of the members of Empire. They take map number 1 here as they steal TSM's map pick with a final score of 7-4.
And on that timer, Bolo with an opportunity inside of the 1vx, but just not able to achieve it. Empire with a map that they haven't played in months, and a map that they haven't played all of SI, able to steal it away from the North American squad in a pretty convincing way as well. 7-4, and a fantastic defensive end from them as well.
Empire keeping this map in their pocket until it was desperately needed, and it seems like it was a perfect pick. The mid-round adjustments on point, constantly countering out the own movements from TSM, and TSM constantly floundering due to those there, not catching players, making late round rotates, late adjustments such as that perfect retake we saw when TSM was finally able to get their basement plant going inside of the first half. Plenty of things like that occurring, and plenty of things that unfortunately TSM just could not deal with, causing them to drop map number 1 here, and unfortunately keeping their bronze curse at SI alive, failing to get past the 3rd place finish. That may still be a factor here, as if they drop one more map, they're heading down into the lower bracket to try and fight set for a rematch against Empire in the grand final. Before they even get to there, they'd have to take out one of the best that Brazil has to offer here at this tournament.
Yes, indeed. But luckily enough for TSM, they're not out of it just yet. That was only bank, folks. We still have Kafe right around the corner and an opportunity to push this to a full best-of-3.
We'll have to see if they can do that, as of course we now move on to Empire's own map pick, which is going to make things even more interesting. Empire certainly well prepared for it. The interesting note to keep here, though, is the fact that Empire's overall map pool doesn't look so strong on paper. A lot of mixed results, a lot of maps sitting very close to like a 40 to 60% win rate. TSM has a much stronger stance on some of the upcoming maps here. So as Stokes said, they're certainly not out of this tournament and not out of the upper bracket just yet. Keep it locked and loaded here, folks, on the main Rainbow Six channel, and we'll be right back in just a few minutes with map number 2 of the upper bracket finals.
Empire defeating TSM 7-4, and that was TSM's map pick, so yeah. That hurt a little bit there. And that was map 1 Bank, and we're going to do a deep dive into that right now. And we got a little wager going on, a little bet. Dev, it's you versus Fress. That's their little duo name. Elaborate.
I just saw how good Empire looked at the very start of this map. I think I'm the king of calling it when it's absolutely not over yet. I think it was 1-0 to Empire, and I'm like, wow, really good round from Empire. They look like they're prepared for Bank, which is TSM's pick. I reckon Empire take it 2-0, and you guys were like, woo!
Yep. That's what we said.
It was just a bold statement.
It was a bold statement after one round.
Back in our faces now, though, because Empire just won on the map that they didn't pick, that TSM picked.
Sure.
And they get to play 2 of their big 3 maps as the second map and or the decider.
Look, I will just say I can't pull out of the bet now. We already agreed on it. But
we'll shake. We haven't actually shaken on it. There you
go.
Oh, Jess is in the bet. I'm separate to the bet now.
The Fress duo, that's where the handshake is done.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, we love Empire.
I can't wait to see who's going to win, though. But, all right, let's start talking about this matchup a little bit and zoom in on map 1 here. And, Dev, Empire's defense and roam game were actually pretty strong.
Yeah, honestly, that was the thing that really stuck out to me from Empire straight out of the gate. It's like running Kapkan, going for these extended roams with Castle, all of that.
Yep.
And I love the confidence. I'm pretty sure it was the very first kill of the map.
It was a Kapkan kill. Yeah, it was in real. So good.
Yeah.
We love that. We love to see utility
and
working
it was actually, it was a really slow round, that coming back to the very first round. It was a really slow round, and I started watching it like, quite a dull start to this fixture we've hyped up. And then bam, Kapkan kill just happens.
Yeah.
Okay, and Jess, there were some really nice adaptations from both teams, but you really like TSM's creativity on this map, because we gotta hype up TSM a little bit here. It wasn't an awful map. I mean, it started off a little bit slow, but they had a comeback.
I mean, I wanted to sort of not dog on TSM too much, because it's obviously their map pick. You can see their stats there aren't awful. I think Merc was really the one that was shut down quite consistently. I know for a fact that they are, looking to make the entry game strong. Merc is the top-rated player, as we said, going into this map on those entries, and I think Empire did really well at shutting them down, forcing them not to have those aggressive front runners do as much damage as they usually do. And that adaptation, yes, you might laugh at the Kapkan, yes, you might be thinking, wow, what a silly way to die, but that was a beautiful little adaptation against the kind of front runners like Merc, who are used to making the space that couldn't do that.
And some of the rounds that TSM won were really, really impressive. Like, I'm thinking they had an attack onto CEO where they, in fact, 2 of their attacks onto CEO, they won. And the first time they lurked a little bit. Bolo got a 3 or a 4K from coming up the stairs. And the second time around, we saw like that window repel plant. Really good.
Yeah, no, and I think I have a tiny little clip just to highlight the creativity. I just wanted to highlight it just to I do. I love getting the little tidbits that other people miss, and it's just a nice little adaptation. They hear the breaching charge go on the castle, C4 out. They actually stood there prepped with the C4, waiting for that to happen. They knew, 1, if it was going to be a sledge, you probably still could catch it, but 2, that they weren't running a sledge, they were running breaching charges. It's a nice little freebie, and it's little creativity stuff like that from TSM I really liked.
It did cost them in the end of the round, just to balance this point back out, is that they didn't have the C4 for the plant denial, and then Shepard plants and gets a 2K to clutch out.
Yeah.
Nice little bit of creativity.
I liked it.
Lose the round, but off the back of it as well, though.
Okay, and Fresh, I hear you got a little clip for us, too. We want to take a closer look at round 4, and Empire looked really coordinated. You were really impressed with their retake here.
I loved it, because most teams, their win condition on this map is time, and when time doesn't happen, it's plant denial. Empire had wasted so much time on the roam, the plant goes down. What do Empire do? They don't panic. They know that they cannot try and panic the retake, so they completely coordinate the retake. You see in the vigil on the top floor, the smoke is going to drop the open area hatch, and they wait for it, they drop together, they play for it, and the retake eventually, what you're going to see is the retake eventually happens, and it's that composure in the post plant, because most teams don't like to get to the post plant.
They don't.
And to know that you have obviously they don't like to get to the post plant, they want to kill everyone before it happens. When it does happen, it's great to have an actual plan in place where you have a fully coordinated retake, you retake the diffuser, you win the round.
I think the key word that you said was composure, right? Like, they took a lot of time. I think there was only 13 seconds left on that 45-second diffuse timer when they finally got on the diffuser and started disabling it. But Empire, slow and steady, wins the race for them.
Yeah, I think you have to be a team that has options for all outcomes. If your win condition is usually plant denial, upon which is most teams, or it's roaming and delaying the time as the teams we're doing at this tournament are doing, if you don't have a redundancy plan, and we've seen that with a lot of teams who have been knocked out and we've criticized them, then you are going to lose.
And in that particular round, the plant was starting to go down around 50 seconds. They only had the free smoke canisters. They knew they could not deny the plant. And we were saying they've got a cap can, they've got a vigil, they've got no C-Force, they've only got this smoke. They need to, we were saying it as it was happening, they need to formulate a plan to fully retake, to push 3-4 people up the main stairs, take the fight, take it with numbers, take it coordinated. That's exactly what they did, and they won the round off the back of it. And that's the sign of a very, very top-level team.
Okay, well, let's take a closer look at map 2 and see if it fares better for TSM, or maybe Empire's going to dominate. We'll see who wins the bet here.
Jake, don't say anything.
Okay, all yours, Jess.
No, go on.
Don't say anything, but it doesn't look good, Jess.
I'll get in there, right? Look, yeah, statistically, you can see straight off the gate, this is stats exclusively from the Six Invitational so far, and Empire, undefeated on Kafe. They 7-4'd 2 SI champions, Space Station and NIP, neither quite in the form that they were once upon a time. And TSM, on the other hand, while they're 1-1, that loss that they had was a 7-2 to Furia just 5 days ago. So TSM not coming in with the hottest form on this map, and if you look a little bit further back in history, the only wins that they've had against much weaker teams that didn't make it to this tournament. So I'm gonna put it out there. I think this is gonna be one of Empire's best maps, or something you said, Fresh, right?
One thing that stands out for me is that attack win rate of 67%, because you ask any entry in the world, which map do you not like entering the most? The answer is Kafe, because you've got to enter from top red, you've got to clear out Piano, Pixel, all of these places. And it makes it so hard, which is why we tend to consider Kafe as a defender-sided map. However, maintaining a 67% attack win rate is... I assume that Empire, as they've pitched the map, TSM will choose the defense. If Empire get 3 or 4 attacks, it's almost
bad.
over, because they put the pressure on going into the second half.
I would like to hold my judgment until I see the operator bans. And a lot of people won't put a lot of weight on the operator bans. I actually think on Bank it was really important. We were speaking about the 0 ban, on Bank, and how many spots you can put the Sam cams. He's got the hard breach charges, so much going on. I do think that I'm going to wait to reserve judgment until I see what the teams have decided to do when it comes to those bans. Is Nomad in play? For example, that's going to be what I'm really looking forward to.
Okay, well, let's get to map 2. Big question, though. Who is winning this bet? Dev or Fresh?
Oh, come on.
Oh, Lordy. Okay, well, let's hand it over to Blue and Stokes with map 2.
Thank you very much, Jackie. And it is time, ladies and gentlemen, to head into map number 2. TSM faltering, not expecting that additional strength to show up on an unexpected map for Empire. And now they have to go on to Empire's, on paper, most, prominent map here inside of this tournament so far, and find out if they could potentially knock them down. You heard the analyst desk talking about it. It's going to be a tough challenge. This could be the end of the upper bracket run for TSM. But we'll have to wait to find out if they have the strength to rebound here. Stokes, let's get your take on it here. Kafe Dostoyevsky, does TSM take it, or is it a 2-0 for Empire?
It's going to be an uphill battle, John, but as of right now, I gotta say, I'm on the Empire train, but TSM have proved me wrong in the past. This team is so feisty when it comes down to it, especially with their backs up against the wall like they are now. Luckily enough, we won't have to wait long for our answer. Social media might think it's a 60-40 split, but Empire are looking to close us out in 2-0 fashion. And, well, luckily for Jess, we are already into the bans. Thatcher off the board, one that is quite routine for any map. We had him in the last one, won't have him here. And Ying going to be banned out for Empire, so that Nomad will work its way in.
Nomad going to be a possibility here. Gives our attackers a lot more room to breathe, especially when it comes to late round positioning here. No longer going to have to watch out for those white or red stair swings here, as more than likely those can be covered, assuming, of course, that the Nomad will be in play. Defender ban's going to look fairly traditional so far, and I would expect them to follow suit with our final ban. TSM could throw us a curveball here, but more than likely, oh no, actually, we're going to see Valkyrie left back in there. So one of the few times she'll be allowed through the pool here. We talked about it before. She has been the most banned operator overall at this tournament, but this time, well, Mai is going to be knocked out to open the floodgates for a little bit more nade dump utility to be able to work itself into these rounds.
Yeah, Ying a very important ban here, especially with the way that we've seen her utilized at this tournament alongside Finka, and the way that you can unblind yourself with those adrenal surges. But we won't have to worry about that here, I really want to focus on this Wamai ban, and this is where things get pretty, well, scary for the defensive end here on Kafe. If you see Capitao start to get worked in, a lot of these, points of contention around the defensive setup are no longer holdable. Those discs are the only thing that prevent you from eating one of those micro bolts and being set on fire. So we'll have to see what Empire brings to the table in that regard, as well. It's going to be TSM that banned that out, so they'll more than likely be utilizing that on their side, but we'll just have to see. As we get into it though, folks, TSM will be starting us off downstairs inside of Kitchen.
So for TSM, they are going to still be able to bring, of course, the Aruni into play here, but most notably not going to see a Jaeger on at least their first round. Good possibility we see him swapped in at some point, though, as he's a fairly comfortable pick, especially for some of our more prominent members of the team right now. But Bolo going to think he can work things better with the laser gates to block things off, and I would generally tend to agree, especially looking at the utility being brought into the table by the members of Team Empire. Those lifeline charges potentially going to get eaten up, and it'll certainly remove some of the soft breach utility alongside, again, the flashes and nades that could also go directly into those gates.
Now, you heard Fresh on the analyst desk talk about how difficult it is for entries to work this map, and, well, you saw exactly why, especially with the way that TSM extended themselves all the way up towards that top floor. There's now really no safe entry point in order for Empire to get into. It's going to be down to the info game to try and find a hole so they can actually get into this map. They're holding up a lot of the area up top, and although it's kind of a shell setup over towards that west side as of right now inside of Cigar, they have mute jammers around this space, which will obviously fake pressure that Empire will have to worry about in the moment. Simply waiting for that to drop open now. Joystick, once the hatch pops, will begin traversing down the red stairwell here and in towards mining. He's going to be able to clear out a lot of this area here as we hop on board, and he'll see that there's not a single person home, but there is indeed one TSM member inside of Red 90.
Empire now spotting it is all clear, at least around Red Hot. You're going to start to take that control for themselves. Joystick with the lineup against Merc 2. Catches him mid-transition, trying to move away from his position in Cocktail. First kill of the round is free for Empire, but we are going to see closer to White Stairs, Scyther getting himself into an exchange with at least one member of the TSM roster, and nearly returning the favor himself, though, as I believe he fights against Bolo. He goes down to about half HP, but Bolo wins that fight only slightly, though, as Scyther sits a little bit lower in the HP department.
Good news is that Empire will be delayed because of the way that FTX set this up, but now for them, obviously that timer going to become an issue a little later on. Past that, though, TSM really don't have anybody inside of the space for that mid-floor, so Empire will be able to hop to soon enough and continue sledging up this floor. As always, we'll immediately begin that. We'll have some range soft breach as well, so if they want to make angles like the angle over towards bunker, they'll be able to do so, but as of right now, they want to stick to this info game. They'll be able to discover that player back there inside of the bunker space like we were talking about prior, and Scyther will begin breaking up this flooring as well with the breaching charges.
Scyther, of course, just opening up good options to be able to use, specifically in a post-plant scenario, as they can look down through that hatch there. Scyther's going to get down, but not fully taken out just yet, so possibility for him to maybe get revived here in a few seconds. Oh, Joystick with the read against the swing from Bolo, though. Beautifully played from him, and he's got a possibility of a second, but no! Doesn't account for the fact that Achieve was still going to be hiding out. They saw the Toxic Babes. They knew the smoke was still alive nearby, just didn't read into the fact that he was going to go all the way out. The good news is a quick correction has already been found as Shepard gets his first kill onto the board here, knocking out one more of the Insight players. Achieve still holding the line by White, and he's just dropped the case outside of the garage as well. That's a big loss for Empire. Now they're going to be struggling for time here. They've got to try to DM their way out of this situation, but Charlotte's causing even more problems on the other side of the map. Achieve knows they're going to go for the freezer plant here, and they've only got a couple seconds to get it down on the ground. Here's the Yokai. Is it going to strike? True, indeed it will, and that's going to clutch out the round for TSM.
Insane round there from TSM, trusting the site utility in order to get it done, but really, it was all achieved all day. He's the only person on TSM to stop the onslaught from Empire that they desperately needed on the White Stairs side. That looked like Empire was just going to walk their way into sight once they got all of these frags, but it's just not doable in the moment. Some fantastic frags here from Joystick, but achieved, able to step up in a serious way here for round one.
It's been a while since we have seen a Yokai clutch work its way into a Pro Tour tournament of this caliber, mainly due to the fact that these little drones had a pretty spectacular nerf thrown at them a little over a year ago now. As before, they used to be invisible if you had them on their position in a ceiling for long enough. No longer the case anymore. They've lost that capability, but still on sites like the Kitchen Hold, you can hide them inside of those little pantries, specifically as we saw the members of TSM do there. And due to the fact that Empire couldn't find it out quickly enough, they unfortunately are not going to be able to catch it, swinging its way into the open and shutting down the plant attempt at 0 seconds.
Interesting pickup here for TSM as they enter the reading site. They'll be on the mid floor as of right now, as we've seen a lot of teams pick between reading as well as mining, all attached to the dining site, as we all know. But Bolo, he's going to be working in the frost, something that we don't see too often on Kafe, but we will see in the moment. We'll see how these welcome mats work out. As for everything else, though, it's pretty plain Jane when it comes to the site setup overall. Some extra shields here with Merc on the Goyo, so I have 2 of those, and some cams working their way in as Valkyrie has actually been allowed to come through the ban phase.
Once more, we knew that the Wamai ban was going to shake things up a little bit and more than likely lead to a few of these picks to come in. TSM is now going to be using it as a chief. We'll be able to switch away from the smoke position. No longer are you really going to need it here for a second floor hold. Way too many ways for the attackers to gain access to this site here, as well as the fact that there's a pretty hard capability to try and keep that smoke alive all the way until the late rounds. So then the attackers could just waltz right around those toxic babes if they're even deployed properly. There's plenty of reason why you might not want to bring it to the table. My achieved will now go to a much more aggressive operator choice, which is already yielding results here as they'll find the early push coming in from the Yana. Once again, that's just going to be the Gemini, I do believe, not the actual Yana just yet, as we can see Joystick, of course, now back on the roof.
Yes, indeed. And TSM will continue to hold on to these defensive bastions around the space, making sure that they limit Empire's potential take of Christmas, at least for the time being. Always spending some time there looking for any Valk cams outside, but they're still stuck to the roof. And funny enough, there's actually one inside awaiting their arrival. Not only inside of the drop space, but also here for Cigar. They'll begin using up some of those Habana pellets on the wall. And as John was talking about on the previous map, they're so very nice because you can choose your pattern now and use that utility to its absolute fullest in a lot of different ways. Joystick going to take some heat now from Bolo inside of the bathroom space as he dips back in. Has some nice shots, he'll take down Dan, but what is it worth to you? So much HP gone now, but at least he'll be able to hold on to his life, even though it's just by a hair.
Keep in mind the Frost Trap is still going to be alive at later points in the round here. Joystick also with a lean-in against quite a few members of TSM, but they're going to keep on striking. Bolo with a second despite the low HP, and Achieve finding a Nitro from down below here. Joystick's in, but he's already lost that player there, as now he's going to be lost inside of the bathroom, and Merc, of course, will steal all the treasure because of it. Knocking out Joystick, leaving only Scyther alive. It doesn't even look like TSM are going to get off the 3rd floor in this round. However, Scyther has somehow negotiated himself a 3rd kill. It's down to a 1v2. And this is quite winnable for Scyther, even with the low HP. He's got 40 seconds to play this out. Going to try and find one of these players through a top-down angle, but no dice as he uses the first breaching charge. Thankfully, still plenty of those to go. I think he accidentally throws out a stun instead of, the breaching charge, so a little gaff there, but easy correction here, and more than likely, we're not going to have a great use for that second stun charge anyway, as he leaps over the banister to get himself into hell here and try to push himself into the site. It's looking like he's lost the plot, though, just guessing for players, hoping to run into a rotate from TSM, but he's not going to find it. TSM are holding back. They're keeping themselves in sight, and now they know that Scyther's going for this 90 push. He doesn't have a way to fight into it here, and he's going to unscope at just the wrong moment. Chala gets a headshot off in the final seconds of the round, and TSM claim another one.
Very well done, especially the early pick coming out of Bolo as he manned that pixel and bathroom position. TSM able to get so much done on that top floor. It was nigh impossible for Empire to really do anything past that point, losing every single engagement. And once again, that's why the entry game on Kafe is so difficult. The amount of crossfires you have to deal with, all the different ways that the defense can attack you. It's just so very hard in order to actually achieve anything, especially on this top floor. But now for Empire, luckily enough for them, they'll be back to the drawing board here as they'll now be attacking into a bar cocktail defense from TSM.
Rico going to be added into the attacking roster also for the Empire roster, as they'll be bringing a Flores out for Scyther here to try and clear out some of, specifically again, this 3rd floor utility. It's a much more direct path. It's pretty tight angles that TSM need to hold into, so a lot more room for these drones to be able to sneak their way in and knock out these setups before TSM can stop them.
Yes, indeed, and quite a bit of utility coming into this, like you were saying, John, especially with the Aruni working its way in here. We're not going to have the castle barricades that we sometimes see that'll be used inside of the cigar shop. Instead, they'll more than likely be on a couple of doors and things like that, just to make the entry points a little bit more difficult for Empire to go through, as, well, they'll be taxed in order to do it. You got to give up a piece of utility or some life in order to traverse that space. Now for Empire, they will be out and onto the field. They have the Flores along for the ride as well, so probably be seeing that used up against Bolo, so he doesn't have shields to play around.
Be slow days here, of course, for Empire, as there's a very long checklist they need to work their way through before they can even consider trying to get aggressive here against the setup from TSM. Like, part of that is exactly what we talked about at the start of the round. Scyther need to try and position their terror drones in the right spot here to knock out some of these power positions the TSM are going to look to lock in, specifically if they're playing it normally, that is over towards the bathroom spot by Pixel and a few other spots such as by Freezer. Of course, their cocktail position probably going to be pretty reinforced also. See them just inching this drone forward here to see where exactly these players will be spotted out at, and also make sure there's not going to be anyone from TSM potentially trying to peek out against this sunroof position that at the moment Scyther is maintaining.
First minute gone here as Empire spin up the drones and see exactly what they have to work themselves through. A lot of different avenues for TSM to enact themselves upon Empire here as well. Some soft holes through the flooring up top here for Nitro Cells to be able to slip through and effectively take out some Empire members inside of the cigar space here. First Flores drone out, and it's looking for the shield in the corner, and just like we thought about before, it's going to be utilized here to break up one of those Goyo shields, but it's Merc to strike first as he takes down Shepard.
And early success being found from TSM, now need to translate that, and so far haven't had much of an issue doing so, with 2 rounds successfully put into their pocket. Empire once again faltering in the early round here, going to lose access to their Hibana as well. No more dedicated hard breach, though we are going to start to see some exchanges roll in, but not enough to equalize things out. Always finds a good nade strike, but immediately afterwards another member of TSM is able to knock down Always himself here. Now 2 dead on the ground for Empire. It's up to Joystick, Dan, and Scyther to make up this. An active drone working its way in, but they accounted? They know Achieved is here. The swing comes in, and it's the real Yana this time. Joystick finds that trade and equalizes us into a 3v3.
Shooting right through the new balcony. Achieved takes some heat and then has to rotate out right into the open arms of the Empire members. And now they found the equalizer, but have they found their first round here in round 3? TSM trying to play this one close to the chest, at least for Gio's situation. He is deep here inside a cocktail, but Joystick, he's creeping up on the back end. Does anyone know that he's here?
Huge.
Has to have some info, something in order to do. But either way, worked his way up in through stacks. He's found the initial frag. Knows one's got to be near Freezer, but luckily enough, Bolo's taken one down, but Bolo's iced as well. And Dan's found the frag. Round 3 goes to Empire.
Joystick with the massive flank coming in on the back end there opens up the floodgates for Dan to get the last kill as well. A perfect pinch from Empire and a huge miss from TSM, not having Overwatch over that potential late flank, working its way up the white stairs there. Empire steal around right out of the hands of TSM. Could have been a perfect 3-0 run, but no. Once again, these teams will lock themselves into a 2-to-1 site trade ratio as TSM will start to unlock the sites they've already played earlier on in this half here. Heading, of course, back down to Kitchen to start out this first round. And if you guys remember, back in round number 1, that was a very close hold for TSM. Only won it because of well-positioned yokais. They might not be able to rely on that a second time here, so they're going to need to make some improvements in the same way that Empire will.
What will Empire do inside of this round for their adjustment, though? If you guys remember all the way back in round 1, it was led off by Joystick with some nice frags that ended up getting it down into a 5 versus 3, but TSM fought back, especially for Achieve's case inside of VIP, finding frag after frag that influenced the round later on, delayed Empire, forced them into a low time execute for the last 2 members, and allowed Chala to strike true with that yokai drone. So for this, that means that they're more than likely going to want to make sure that they clear out this east side if they want to be going for things in a very similar fashion. They do not want to allow Achieved to get too far down this path.
Bolo here just trying to snipe out some drones, I think, and open up a few soft breach positions for himself, but not going to be able to find them, as now we've got Empire out on the board once again, bringing a very similar lineup to the table, but also still changing a few things. Another new operator being added in. Dan specifically going to bring the Dokkaebi out. An operator we haven't seen a whole lot of inside of this tournament, but has been used inside of some niche scenarios, such as this for Empire, to suss out the positions of players, probably as they get closer to the site execute, such as when they work their way in through White Garage, maybe need to confirm one more time the exact position of a player hiding inside of VIP, or a few other sneaky ones they may not be totally aware of. Can be very useful for that, and of course, these are the best of the best, so playing off that sound intel is not going to be too much of an is not going to be too much of an issue for players of Empire's caliber.
Well, past that as well, Dokkaebi actually does counter Yokai now as well. With her phone call, Echo used to not be rung up whenever that happened, and well, nowadays he does indeed. So that'll be a direct counter Empire have found some influence with, and not only that, but they won't have to have always swing onto those hatches, as the DMR can get it done as well. But now for Empire, they have top floor control. They'll start traversing into the second area now and getting rid of some of these default cams, although Dan's going to take a second in order to do that. But luckily enough, they'll be able to clear this space out. Now it's down to the drone game here to begin opening up some flooring and making things a lot easier to play this vertically.
Empire with full control over the second floor. TSM already forcing themselves back down, and once again going to play this on an entirely horizontal basis here, relying once again on the positioning from Achieve towards VIP, and a few other clutch players spread out, sprinkled around this first floor hold to be able to win out the round, or at best delay out the time here, as they've already used over half of it trying to establish initial positioning. Empire as well are going to be able to find out at least one or two of the Yokais. We can see that ping, the contextual one coming in there. That means that Empire have scouted that one out, and we're going to see this Rotero drone actually nearly catch one of the Insight players too. That's Geo being forced out of position, but of course he'll return directly towards it after the explosion timer has expired. That doesn't mean though that he's not going to be a bit of an issue here as Empire start to swing their way in. They've got the intel on him and are going to start to smoke him out as well as Achieved. But it doesn't look like Empire have the full confidence to go for it though, despite these smokes being used. That's of course not until we see Joystick absolutely ice out Geo, knocking him down and opening up the floodgates for the rest of Empire to start swinging in. Merc, though, with the good cutoff and the response to this hatch drop, he's going to drop the case on the ground. However, temporarily here, Dan's already retrieved it, and he's going to go for the first real planet tip. Here comes Bolo on the lurk up through the wood stairs, though. He catches always. He's going to try to stop the plant, but no. Dan's got it in a safe position. He's going to lock it down. Nearly kills Bolo, but Bolo still causing problems from upstairs here. He gets the third kill. Scyther's the only one left here, but he's got a frag to bring out as well. Manages to take down Shala. Two more still to go. He's found the second one. Both players now off the counter defuse, but Achieve will shut him down, knock out Scyther, and give us another round for TSM as they maintain the lead at 3-1.
Merc holds the line just long enough for the rest of TSM to get upstairs and run amok of that second floor. Not a single person can shut down Bolo in the moment, and that's exactly why TSM end up winning that round. A fantastic stick, though, from Empire for Dan's sake, as he was able to get that plant down and at least give them a chance at taking round 4.
Bolo, once again, some beautiful stuff to completely throw off the post plant from Empire, which was looking solid, especially considering that Bolo could not find the planter initially. Thankfully, though, he's able to throw a massive wrench in the setup phase of Empire once they get that diffuser onto the ground, and as such, Empire are never really able to fully establish their positioning. They're putting the huge clutch on the Scyther, which he's not able to translate. Now a third round has been set up for TSM here, looking to make it 4 as they go back to their second floor hold.
It's going to be the second time here that Empire has seen the reading defense. They got a successful plant on the kitchen the second time around, but will the clear be successful enough to achieve it here on the second go-around for reading? Be back to the top floor here for TSM to set things up above the side and make things a little difficult for Empire on this clear. Utility-wise, sticking to a lot of similarities, especially for Bolo's sake, as we'll be bringing the Frost yet again here and putting these in some cheeky positions. That couch position, especially one that could end up bagging a kill for them early on, as people really tend to jump over that couch and not really be aware that something could possibly be at their feet. So could be one that we see come in a little while later, rather. But either way, for Empire, they're going to be changing up some things inside of their lineup as well, specifically Dan, who's now onto the Twitch.
Already got Empire out and about. As Stokes just mentioned, Dan continuing to flex around his picks here, adding another new one to the tally as he goes over towards a Twitch to try and snipe out some of this utility. Of course, we are going to see that very quickly get dealt with those. It's put into an obvious to spot position over by White, but still manages to delete at least one of the ADSs here, which is going to make this position all the much weaker for the member of TSM that's currently holding on to it. That will be Bolo, too, who once again is leading the charge here for TSM at 6-4, with a few other teammates being relatively close behind. Merc and Achieved, both with 4 kills to write home about as well. Gio, though, still struggling at this point as he has the donut.
Yes, indeed. The trio of TSM working Kafe in the moment. See if Empire can do anything about that here inside of round 5, as they've already started on their clear. Dan will be holding on to red stairs here for a time, whilst the rest of his team works the top end of the map and tries to see if there is any better entry points. Always is shifting himself over towards the east-hand side, so could see him come in here soon enough and try to effectively take out Bolo from the white stairs window. Joystick now pushing himself forward inside of the area. No shield for Bolo to play around inside of Pixel. Does Joystick hit a shot? It's Bolo instead that rips his head off and finds the initial pick yet again.
Bolo again pushing TSM forward time after time again at the beginning of these rounds as he knocks out one of the most pivotal players we've seen so far in this series from Empire. Joystick down for the count here. That's going to delete the Yana from play. The free drone's no longer a factor, and now the sledge is well removed from play as Merc is locked in on a Nitro cell play to be able to take him down. Dan desperately hunting for a trade, but no, Gio finally going to get his first kill in this map as well by knocking out Scyther, and oh no! We saw it sitting on the floor at the beginning of the round, but that's the problem. It players tunnel vision. They're going to walk into frost mats like that one. It helps to secure TSM yet another round as they're rocketing towards a 1-1 scoreline in this series.
It's the last thing you think about when clearing Christmas, and not only that, with your gun up, it's blocking half of your screen. You're not going to see what you're walking over, and fortunately enough for TSM, the frost mat works out there in the end and is able to find that kill. Fantastic defensive showcase here from TSM so far, as it's a 4-1 lead.
Back upstairs here for the third floor hold as they'll try to negotiate their 5th and final round of the half on this very pivotal site here. Thankfully for Empire, it's a lot less complex to approach, so things will be a little bit more straightforward in that regard. And finally, they're going to keep the lineup consistent, it looks like, as once more, Dan will, for the first time, I believe, or one of the first times inside of this half, keep himself on the same operator. Not moving away from the Twitch. He feels confident that he can do some good work with it. Fortunately, only at 1-3 so far this game, but the drone's possibly going to be pretty useful here as well to try and deal with at least some of the utility mitigation, possibly a few other pieces of utility as well, positioned towards White and that cocktail hold.
Yes, indeed. And also, we're going to be seeing the castle barricades come in here from Gio, like we were talking about before. We usually see these around the cigar space, layered with those laser gates as well, just to make things kind of difficult to clear. You're going to have to end up dedicating quite a bit of utility to that space, and, well, you still have the rest of the site to worry about, John, so you don't want to try and commit too much to that area, especially if it doesn't end up bagging you a kill. So we'll see how Empire wants to go about things now, as Merc showing off some of his mechanical ability. He'll send a shot out towards the south side, but nobody home for the time.
So things continue to look strong for TSM on this defensive half, but big question is going to be, how will things continue to go when we switch sides? You guys saw, if you were watching the Analyst Desk segment, that Empire has a strong stance on this map on both the attack and the defense. The attacking part hasn't necessarily translated itself to be too true in this specific matchup, but the defensive half could still be met with a massive comeback for Empire to still enable them to 2-0 this series. But I will admit, things are looking strong right now for the members of TSM. They are going to try and negotiate a 5th and final round here before they are thrusted over to the attacking side.
Luckily enough for Empire, Shepard will be rocking the stuns here on Hibana, so he'll be able to give those up to the Siege Gods, in translation for bit of pressure here inside of Cigar if he so chooses for those laser gates. Lots of shots coming in and on to Chala now, but he won't be able to clutch it up in this moment. Joystick to shut him down, and Empire have their first blood.
Far too much utility going out against Chala, and unfortunately due to the castle barricades put down there, as well as the lack of any soft breach over into Cigar, you can see his teammate Bolo hiding out inside of the pixel position as well as the bathroom spot. Not going to be able to support that to any extent here. Chala left out on an island and unfortunately isolated far too quickly with no path to escape. escape. He goes down here. Dan as well. Look at this. So much utility, so much information at his grasp. He's going to be able to move in. Takes care of the bulletproof camera. That's going to limit the potential info coming out from Chala here now that he's down on the ground. No longer can assist from the POV of that camera. And Dan, that's good enough for him to start working his way in. Of course, being followed up by the Gemini there, which is going to get dealt with quite quickly as it passes Cigar. So no additional intel being bled over to Empire just yet. They need to bleed themselves some kills here, though, as they're starting to get a little low on time with a bit remaining. And a big swing from Bolo. He strikes true yet again with the Mark 14 here, knocking out Joystick.
Whoever is precise must use the DMR. And, well, wouldn't you know it, it would be Bolo. Only 2 shots required out of this thing for most operators to dust them. And, well, he's already done that inside of this round, taking down Joystick. Now we reach down to the last 37 seconds. A possible hop out here as Shepard steps up for White Window, but they need to get something else done inside of this space. He'll use his X-Kairos on the single panel here for Cocktail as that starts to open up, but Empire still have a lot to do inside of this moment. Dan pre-fires for Bathroom. He'll find Bolo as he continues to try and traverse himself up the White hallway, but instead starts to go in towards Showers. So much to worry about. That F2, can it get it done? Achieved with a beautiful swing here for TSM as they start to take down member after member of Empire. What a shot from Shepard, but it's not going to be enough. With only 3 seconds and achieved on White Stairs, they'll lock it up and make a 5-1 half out of Kafe.
Achieve the Guardian of the White Stairs here, as well as the hallway, shutting down player after player. Empire just having to thrust themselves into it due to a lack of time and their inability to clear out these hard points earlier on in the round. Empire fall from grace here, only 1 round on the attacking side, and now TSM just need to find 2 of these attacks and they'll trade out maps with their opponents, sending us to the 3rd and final one on Coastline to decide this series here. For Empire, now that they're on the defensive side, they've got the choice of site as well, and they're going to head upstairs just like we saw in our previous round here to start things out.
Okay, well, we've switched sides. An effective defensive half here from TSM as they constantly were able to get in front of Empire and be the obstacle that they needed to be. But now they need to be that offensive force. They need to be unstoppable in the moment. Only a single round mustered from Empire on their offensive half. TSM, they're in good straits, but they need to seal the deal as of right now. They do not want to get too far down this path and allow Empire back into this game. They want to see Sunny Ibiza.
Didn't see much Finka play from the Empire side on their attack, but Bolo immediately going to thrust it forward. This has been, at least as far as the early phase of the tournament, the go-to pick for so many teams as she has flooded her way into the meta. Once again, has enabled that aggressive capability for so many teams. A nice little boost up for some of those poking fights we'll see teams get into in the first minute or 2 of a round where 1 or 2 players might lose 20 to 30, maybe even 50 HP over a bit of a half fight. But thankfully, with Finka in play, those players can reboost that HP back up to near full here, in addition to boosting a few other things as well, such as the capability to aim out and just in general give them better strength to try and push into some of these more dodgy areas of the map that Empire are going to want to control.
Well, now Bolo get up and on to Heaven Window here as they're looking to bless themselves here for the round. Worried about somebody running out of Hell Door as well. Achieved will begin sledging open the hatches on the top end as we start the slow rolling process of beginning to clear out Kafe. It's all onto the info game to make sure that they know where these Empire members are. We've seen it time and time again, just like we saw on Empire's side. So they'll be looking to make sure that Dan is inside of this space and that they can enact upon this area quickly enough in order to take him down. But fortunately for him, there's no castle barricade on this backside, so he'll be able to hightail it out of there and safely play inside of Cocktail.
Bomb located by attackers.
Merc continuing to look for an opening option here, and of course wants to try and clear out a little bit of utility if there's going to be any. That drone immediately jammed out, though. Unfortunate positioning for him, but not the end of the world, of course. Still under the halfway point inside of this round, and Merc's just going to face check it after everything is done here. Obviously need to be very cautious since it hasn't been droned out, but quickly can deal with that mute jammer and get their teammate to go back on droning duties to get further into the site. Away from that, though, not a lot of aggressive contention coming out from Empire, neither from their Cocktail position or their deeper spot on the inside of Freezer. They are not going to play into the bathroom spot that we saw TSM trying to use with Bolo. That's been fully locked away. While, yes, so players inside of it, they can't necessarily aggressively swing out to Cigars prominently, as they would have been able to do with the setup that Bolo and the rest of TSM were using. That gives TSM free control up until Pixel, but now this is the problem. Because it's locked down here, Dan has so many easy fights. As long as the Freezer position remains strong here, they have to walk right into an M590, and that is not a situation you want to be flushed into as an attacker.
We've seen some action come out of these frag grenades as the sun starts to pour in. That will at least be able to highlight that this area has been cleared out. Frag grenade out, but it's not going to be able to bounce in, and that's going to be a freebie here from Dan! And just like John said, this is not a fight that you want, TSM. Do not step up in Pixel with a man playing bathroom, otherwise that's what you're going to get. Empire already starting off strong here for round 7.
Little bits of damage being bled off the roster from Empire. You could see every single member of the team, except for Scyther, has lost half of their HP or more. But it does not matter if they cannot close down on these. Geo being given a dangerous amount of control, but he's lost one of his other teammates and can't even find Always either. Achieve finally exchanging onto one, but now he's the only one left here. Has to stick the plant. 3 members of Empire still alive and well, and they're just going to shoot him out from down below. Empire secure their first hold on the defensive side as they try to come back into this now. 2-5, 3 rounds to go, and they'll tie us up.
That all comes down to that engagement there on Pixel. Just an unfortunate bounce for the first nade, and well, they feel like they have to step up and do something there. They need white control so very badly to actually guarantee this plant. But unfortunately enough for them, Dan, he's playing actively in that situation. He's not playing reactively. He's not stuck in the bathroom just waiting for them to try and push into him. Oh no, he's manning that Pixel door. That's exactly what you want out of this player, and a fantastic round from Empire.
So with Empire back on the right footing here, it's up to TSM to course correct. Thankfully, the early round is going to play out very similarly as we move into our second defensive hold from Empire. They just moved down to the second floor, which means we're still going to see a lot of contention weighed out into the freezer as well as cocktail positions, but it'll be deployed as an extension, obviously, this time, not the actual site, so we'll more than likely see Empire give those positions up around the 1-minute mark or less, and that's when TSM, the trouble will begin, as they'll have to figure out how to make the transition down to the second floor without losing the large majority of their roster, and of course, they'll have to find positioning to get into the site, properly lay that case down this time.
What is the way that you get ahead of Empire now on this defensive side for them? Obviously, TSM, they did a lot of shooting when it came to their defensive side. Achieved especially, currently 10-2. He was 10-1 before he ended up getting blasted away trying to put that case down in the dying moments of that round. Truly insane stuff, especially coming out of the trio that they were talking about on the analyst desk here for TSM and the likes of Bolo, Merc, and Achieved. All of them positive, and all of them carrying quite a few kills for this TSM squad in the moment.
So it's quick clears for TSM, specifically Bolo, as he catches, I believe that was a bulletproof being positioned over there. Actually, never mind, I think it was a Banshee for Dan there. Just couldn't see it too well from the side. Either way, knocks out the utility nice and quick and opens up a possible white stairs push later on in this round. Not going to do it immediately, as that'll be a little bit too obvious if he tries to go for it right from the get-go. But still, opens up the option later in the round, and now TSM are going to be able to open up the advantage for themselves. Achieve striking first this time against Joystick, eliminating again one of the most powerful players here on Empire at the moment.
Sometimes it's the most basic things that can take you out in this game, even if you're a professional player. Joystick gets taken out via the skylight as he tries to rotate into Cigar. It happens to the best of us, and well, Joystick does indeed happen to be one of the best. As for TSM, they'll begin dropping in and clearing out this top floor here, as they've already gotten that initial frag, which means that Cocktail is probably going to be looking pretty soft as they don't have nearly as many bodies to man this top floor.
Well, with Overwatch on the upstairs hold, and Dan nearly getting caught himself trying to rush downstairs. I think that was actually him impacting it out to try and see if there's anybody from TSM nearby the garage, but not to be the case this time. Bolo has confirmed that there's a player on that rotate that you guys at home have been seeing for quite some time, but Bolo's also very careful. The swings outside. Scyther able to make a move against Merc in the meanwhile. That's going to take out the Yana. Scyther tries to go for a second as there's direct pressure against him from Cigar, but Geo wins it out this time on the trade. He's not going to take a lot of damage himself here. So, once again, TSM yield the advantage, always keeping Overwatch on the descent from the top of White Stairs, though Dan leaps into the engagement versus Chala. This time, the shotgun not panning out, but thankfully, the backup is there. Always wraps up through White, quickly trades out the frag versus Chala, and puts us into a winnable situation at 2v3 with under a minute to go.
Luckily enough for TSM, they will have the verticality to be able to abuse here as they look for this 6th round. Shepard still has plenty of utility to fend this off, though, with the toxic smokes being able to play into this, and no Nitro Cell for Always. He's going to be down to the gunpowder of the AUG as he looks to secure even more frags. He's going to be one of the real members of TSM down low here as Merc has been taken out, so really nothing to do when it comes to their clear and that Gemini clone. They begin to work themselves in for reading now. Shepard still with some utility in his pocket as this plant continues to go down from Geo, but he's found a safe space over in the corner. This is going down so easily, and TSM, they've been able to achieve at least that. Bolo takes down Shepard. It's up to Always now, who's stuck inside a fireplace hall. He at least has Geo over in the corner on low HP. He did not end up getting down in that scenario. It's going to be the easy kills back and forth, but no, they can't find it through the soft breach. He had the initial insight, but no, he can't get it done. It's achieved instead. He hops off a new balcony and finds the kill in fireplace, and they found their 6th round.
That's map point now for TSM, as they only need one more to shut this one out and move themselves onto the 3rd and final map of the series. Valiant attempt for the last player alive on Empire. Had the right positional read on all 3 members of TSM there, but just could not get a kill to get him out of that box that he was locked into over inside of Dining Room. Empire still with only 2 rounds on their placard at this point. That means they need 4 in a row just to trigger OT. A very similar situation that TSM was staring down at the end of map number 1. Now Empire has to pull out the same feat. Otherwise, we're going to our last map.
What an insane storyline between these two, especially for TSM. You said it earlier, John. They are always the bridesmaid, never the bride. They somehow get to the podium, but end up 3rd every single time that we see them. But also past that, I must remind you this. TSM always somehow gets the Six Invitational buff. Every year we see them make some Cinderella run where they are just so dynamic in their play, and it's hard for people to try and contest them. It was looking scary on Bank, but this Kafe, this is proven that they can push themselves to the grand finals.
Empire going to bring kind of the new school of thought to play here on their 1st floor hold, as you'll see Tachanka brought in. We were seeing some teams play this strategy with just the Tachanka, not even bringing the smoke to the table, but they're going to bring both here. Double delay composition for Empire, as of course you can bank those incendiaries from Tachanka off the wall, meaning you have the capability to block off freezer access or even front door play all the way back from Bakery, and more than likely the opposite effect holds true as well. Not necessarily going to be able to use the smokes that liberally, so considering that, a little bit more capability to play it out, even if Empire gets bullied out of the site through both the early and mid-round play from TSM, as we have been seeing on the previous rounds in this half.
Yes, indeed. And for the previous rounds in this half overall, we're actually at an equal opening blood between these two teams. Yet TSM 6-2 right now on the score line. And this is what I was talking about before we got into this map. This team is so very scrappy. They are not scared to take these gunfights and try and equal that man count or play it down to low time and trust the utility to get something done. Now for Empire, it looks like they want to do more of the same. Take a page out of Chala's book and put these yokais in some pretty cheeky positions. This one, not as cheeky as we'd seen prior, as it'll just go up towards the kitchen ceiling and play right above the double door. For TSM, though, they've already cleared out most of this map for the upstairs presence as they begin to work themselves down the white stairs.
We're just going to see a rather suspicious opening of the freezer wall, so won't necessarily want to play against that too early on in the round here. Still less than halfway through it. Of course, they'll need to wait until achieved. Brutalizes the floorboards here up above the site to try and open up better intel capability for this team. They'll want that hatch open too, which is going to be too much of an obstacle for them. Not really a lot that Empire can do to try and stop that. So there it goes. That's the execute route now opened up, as they have both the white stairs access as well as the pivotal hatch to get themselves to the inside. Now they need to try and build up towards the intel, but a nitro cell is going to put Sheev down on the ground. Thankfully, we have Fink in play, so it's going to be a very quick revival for him to get him back in play, and Empire won't be able to hunt him down quickly enough because he's way too close to hard flooring sitting directly behind him.
And now you know why I almost had a heart attack for Achieved there. That's one of those areas inside the map that there's almost always a nitro cell waiting for you, and he takes a lot of heat from that, but luckily enough, Bolo still has a lot of adrenal surges in that pocket to buff him back up, and that's why we've seen so many plays coming in for Finka on this offensive side here, past the LMG and past the nades as well. Just so much to offer here, especially when you're able to pressure like this. Bolo takes down one. Bolo will find his second as Achieved tags on as well, and this round, it's starting to pull into the TSM favor. Can Scyther do anything about this? Misses some crucial shots on the VIP player. He'll hop back into coat check to try and survive these last 20 seconds.
Scyther locked in a box there. Not much he can do about it. But like we were talking about earlier, always can bank these incendiaries and keep the members of TSM, for the most part, locked to the inside. Is a big mistake made there. Geo's dropped. That's the case down in an awkward position. Scyther's out as well. Empire are doing it. They're bringing it back, but okay, here we go. Bolo, he's retrieved case control. He's got it down on the ground. It doesn't look like Empire have any positioning to stop this here. Great overwatch coming in from Chala as it's now secured by Bolo, and always left alone with only about 35 seconds to get himself back over the case and get this counter defuse going. Will he be able to clutch out? Will he be able to push this map forward, or are we going to Coastline? That's the big question in play, and the answer comes swiftly as Bolo secures yet another kill. Coastline is coming up next here as TSM strike back on map number 2 and take their opponent's map pick away from them.
I have one question, folks. Have you booked your tickets for Ibiza? Yesterday, we did not have a single series that went the full best of 3. And finally, here in the upper bracket finals, we will achieve just that. TSM steal Kafe away from Empire in 7-2 fashion.
Almost the highlight there at 13-6, but achieved as well, having an absolutely fantastic map, only going down in 3 of the rounds, played for a positive 10 KD over the overall course of that map there. Wonderful stuff coming out from the TSM members, and exactly what was needed to bolster them forward and get them ready for what's sure to be a riveting map number 3 between both of these teams.
This is building up to be a classic between these two. Such an insane start to this on Bank with a 7-4 finish in favor of Empire, and now a 7-2 finish for TSM here on Kafe. And folks, I am so very excited to see how this ends on Coastline of all maps.
Massive statement made there by TSM, and how it's going to be very interesting to see how Coastline played out. A little bit of a risk for both Empire and TSM to play into it. TSM only with 2 plays on that map, and as well quite a few bans that they themselves chosen, so not feeling the full confidence to play into it, but the 2 times it has popped up in this tournament, they've been able to clutch it out 7-5. Meanwhile for Empire, yeah, they've got a lot of results on that map too, but it's only a 50-50 win rate for them, so they're rolling the dice for that one, heading into the final battleground between these 2 teams. Will TSM be able to break the bronze curse and finally secure an SI final for the first time in 3 years? Or will Empire get themselves another potential finishing placement here at the Six Invitational and possibly an opportunity to lift that hammer as well? Well, folks, we're going to be finding out very, very shortly. But once again, what a series so far inside of these first 2 maps. Stick it right here. We'll be right back in a few moments with a breakdown of map number 2 as well as map number 3.
The upper bracket final goes to 3 maps, no victor yet. We're taking a live look at the stage, and oh my goodness, this has been so much fun to watch. TSM versus Empire, and the best part, well, I guess this is kind of being mean to Dev, but Dev, you lost to Fress.
That's all right. That's all right. Look, drinks are on me tonight for them, but I'm happy to go down fighting. I think that Empire dropped the ball on that too. Like, TSM, credit to him. Insane comeback.
No, for sure. I mean, it was kind of a flip-flop here. This was actually Empire's map pick, but you know what? The Trinity was ready to go, and Fresh, they were out for blood after map 1. Something woke up there.
They absolutely did, and particularly Bolo. I'm not usually a big advocate of changing call-outs in game, but I think we need to change Pixel spot to be Bolo, because he was just not losing a single gunfight on that with the Aruni DMR, no less.
Yeah, no, that was really impressive from them. I think there was a lot of areas of the map that Bolo and, of course, all of TSM were able to have very good power positions on. They were able to traverse the map very strongly. It did look like they had outclassed Empire at every turn.
And while it was a dominant scoreline of 7-2, it was as dominant as it gets, I feel like a lot of those rounds were really close, particularly those kitchen rounds. And you're talking about Bolo. He had an insane flank upstairs and a 3K to enable that retake from TSM. Honestly, that was nuts, and that was really impressive. I thought that if Empire had maybe won that round, maybe they won their first kitchen attack, which was denied on the buzzer by a yokai drone, this would have been a very different
Could have been
story.
very different, yeah, you're right. Although I will say is that when TSM, so that very first round, they were really pushing the boundaries of how long they could roam.
Yeah.
And that's what delayed enough time just to allow the Echo yokai drone to to deny the plant, sorry. So they kept pushing those boundaries. Bolo coming back up on the flank, pushing the boundaries, really testing Empire out on their executes. And Empire were just failing. That just tiny little 5% failure where they weren't accounting for Bolo. They weren't accounting for the fact that players would still be roaming.
Yeah, I mean, Bolo achieved Merc, TSM's Trinity. They seemed unstoppable there. It would seem like a change in energy for Empire, though. Dev, I mean, this wasn't a close map. It was a stomping.
Yeah, and that was a big surprise to us, considering as we went into the map that this is a good Empire map. This is
And you thought they were winning in 2.
Yeah, and fair enough, I was wrong. It happens, believe it or not. But I think TSM clearly went in prepared, and they clearly went in not feeling dejected whatsoever. Their confidence not knocked it all after map 1, which is honestly probably what should have happened. They got slapped on their map pick. They come back and they do the same to Empire.
Oh my god, look at the leading man to do it as well. To give the final slap, the final blow.
+10. What?
+10. Not only just +10 as well, is that it's rather surprising that a lot of his engagements happen mid to late round. He wasn't the opening engager by any means. He took one opening engagement, was successful in it, so you could say he's flawless on the entries if you want to. I mean, no one will call you wrong statistically, but it was really important mid to late round. Achieve was making the damaging blows in the power positions of Empire.
And it wasn't the flashy kills that we saw at
No, it wasn't.
Like you say, it wasn't the entries. It was weird because he's got so many kills, but we hardly talked about Achieved when we're sat in the back room talking about the game. He was doing his job, and he was doing his job perfectly. Popping up when he needed to get a 2K and nothing else.
Could probably call him a quiet achiever.
Oh, you know what? I can't with Dev.
Oh,
That's another drink now.
Yeah, you almost another
Such a
drink
Dev
after.
3 now.
dad jokes, and then there's Dev jokes,
Yeah.
which is just
Another level below.
level of cheesiness. But Jess, I do want to talk to you about Empire's attack. Frankly, lackluster on this map.
Yeah.
What was falling apart with their attack strategy?
You know, I was really surprised. For those who don't usually watch Empire, let me fill you in as to why I was so surprised about their attacks. They actually win more of their attacking rounds on this map for like the past 8 or 9 games they've played on Kafe than they win defensive rounds. So it's surprising because, you know, we don't generally consider Kafe to be that attacking side of map. For Empire, they did marginally win more of their attacking rounds, you know, as I said, for the last 8 times they've played it. And for them to come in and just drop the ball is really uncharacteristic of a team we know that moves faster on land, actually seem to be stopped at every turn.
I actually wonder if it was pressure. Because
You think?
they're on that map.
Yeah.
It's their map. They know how to attack this map. It's to get to the grand final of the Six Invitational. And they just looked disjointed. They looked like they were going at different times. They were getting caught out on ones. And
They were.
I'm wondering if it was just a psychological pressure thing and that they really will have to come away from this map, going into the next map, and have a full mental reset.
Well, the thing is, this isn't the first time we've seen Empire struggle on attack here at SI. And yes, well, historically, they're really good on attack. We saw the M&M game, which is the only match at Six Invitational that they have lost so far. They got 2-0 dominant scorelines, both of them, and they only won 2 attacking rounds in the whole series. They played Coastline, for goodness sake, the most attacker-sided map in the entire map pool, and they still couldn't rack up a couple of attacks. So we're starting to see flashes of that really vulnerable Empire that let them down against M&M.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big question now is how does Empire reset? Like I said earlier, that was 7-2 on there, Fresh. I'm making you put your little coach cap on, okay? What are you telling your team right now?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a difficult one, but the Empire, you know, in terms of the Russians, they've always been seen as this team that, regardless of what happens, they go in, they do the job, they're focused.
Yep.
They always operate in that middle ground. They're never too high and they're never too low. They just stay in that middle ground, and that's what I expect coming out of them. I'm not expecting some massive reaction coming out of them.
Okay.
I'm just expecting consistently what we have seen, and that they trust that will be enough to get them through.
That will be the key for Empire, because let's say they are nervous. Let's go off that theory crafting there to say the pressure got to them a bit. They weren't operating at the speed they were hoping to, especially on land. They need to get into this last map, which is a favorable map for them. We spoke about the big 3, and they need to go, this is a good map for us. We overthought the second map. Let's get into this map, do what we usually do, play it as perfectly as we usually play it, and nothing will go wrong. And I know it's easy to say rather than do, but that's the thing that they need to get in their heads for this one.
I love the coach mindset here. They're jumping ahead to map 3. So let's talk about Coastline, and I want to see if we can bring up the map head-to-head graphic here. Dev, you lost the bet. How many times am I going to rub that in your face? You know, you said Empire could do it in 2, but can they do it in 3, Fresh?
I mean,
Or Dev. Oops, I messed up the name. Sorry.
Oh, you.
I thought
wow.
I just thought
you were like, Dev, you lost the bet. You don't get
I
to
was
talk.
attracted to the Blue Jackets.
You're
and I
in
just said the
talking
wrong
jail
name.
over there, Dev.
Yeah,
I was like, either y'all.
No.
Look, if I am allowed to break in here, I will say this is one of Empire's really strong maps, and this is something we've talked about, Fresh, a lot. But you can see TSM have played it twice at SI against both NIP and Dark Zero, and won it both times.
And that's where recency bias comes into play, right? Is I'm talking over the past year, this is Empire. Past 3 years, I said it in the pre-show. This is an Empire staple map. But if you look in this tournament, 50% actual map win rate, 50% attack win rate on what we know to be an attacker-sided map. So recency bias actually indicates it slightly leans me in the favour of TSM.
And if you want to talk recency bias, both of the most recent 2 times Empire played this, they lost it. Lost it to Sonics, lost it to M&M. That was a 7-1. So not amazing statistically, of course, what we saw in the graph there. We had high win rates on attack and defense for TSM on this map as well. So this should, in theory, be a TSM favored thing. But if there's anything that piles on that for me, and yes, now I am flip-flopping compared to my... it's the fact that TSM have that momentum. They shut Empire out of map 2, and I don't think they'll let them in on map 3.
The only redeeming factor after looking at that graphic, boys, I've sat here very quietly. I've run all the numbers through my heads. I've looked at what I've got over the past 6 months for TSM and Empire. TSM, they are very attack heavy on this map, just statistically over the past times they've played it. However, Empire has a nice, juicy little balance. That's what you want as a team. You don't want to come on one side and go, sheesh, if we don't win at least 4 rounds here, our second half is usually really weak, and we're just going to have to pull things out of the bag there. So if we're looking at balance on sides of preference, Team Empire likes both sides. That is going beyond the recency bias we've spoken about. They are going to have to pull something new that they haven't pulled out at this tournament in order for them to get back to that form.
Okay, so let's lock in predictions here. You're flip-flopping.
Oh, no.
Look, I'm going to back in Empire, actually. I'm going to say, jump out every goddamn window you see, boys. Let's get it going.
Okay, Empire.
I don't want to curse it. Actually, you know what? As a result, I'm going to go TSM.
Okay, Empire TSM. Fresh.
Oh, it hurts him to do this, Jackie. It hurts him to do
I'm
this.
saying this through gritty teeth.
The pain.
I'm saying this through gritty teeth, TSM.
Okay. Man, y'all
We are going. You know what? We're going to get back to the EUL
I
desk.
like the traitors.
We're going to get back to the EUL desk, and like it'll just have traitors written as our name plaques from then on.
Oh my god. Well, we'll see how this all turns out. The upper bracket final will be decided here. Who is going to the grand final? Well, Blue and Stokes, take it away. Map 3.
Thank you very much, Chucky. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the final map of the series between these two titans of Siege. Empire, hailing from Europe, and of course, TSM from the North American side of things. Both have been able to snipe a map off of each other, but who will be the victor on this final one? Well, the stats are very close. It's very dangerous for both of our teams. The analysts, the European analysts, seem to be favoring the North American squad. But Stokes, let's get your thoughts on it. How are things looking for both of our teams here, as we sit at the precipice of the final map?
This is indeed the upper bracket finals, my friend. And if there's one thing I know about both of these teams, folks, it's that you should set your notepad on fire. This last map, it's equal slate between these two. Coastline decides who goes on to the grand final and who goes to the lower bracket. Hi, guys. We're ready to jump into this one so very soon. And let me tell you, at least for me, I'm feeling a little NA bias, I'll be honest. I think that they will be able to propel themselves to the grand finals, but Empire, they've played spoils time and time again before. So luckily enough for you and I, John, we don't have to wait too long. Coastline starts right now.
Let's get into it, folks. It is the final map of the series to solidify our first grand finalist, the Six Invitational 2022. Will it be TSM or will it be Empire? Let's get into the map and find out, as we're immediately going to chuck Nomad out for the first ban on the table here. That's the choice from Empire. TSM selection, in the meanwhile, is going to fall in line with what we've seen in the meta, as Thatcher will be removed for them.
Well, luckily enough for Dev Marta, it seems like he's going to get exactly what he wants. Nomad off the board means we might have some high-flying action in between these two. The smoke ban coming through as well. Not only a solid ban overall for a map like Coastline, but also somewhat of a target up against Shepard, who's one of the best smokes in the entire world.
Not the first time we've seen a smoke ban utilized specifically inside of an Empire matchup, and if memory serves me correctly, inside of this map also. I believe we saw it back when they played the Sonics earlier on in the tournament, so it's going to be a repeat of that. Valkyrie, of course, will now be removed from play. Way too much outside contention and positions where you can sneak those cameras into play, so you do not want to leave her in the play for this one, considering how roam heavy this map is going to be for the defenders. Meanwhile, though, it's Empire that get that honor first, as they're going to start on the defensive side, and TSM will be on the attack. Blue Bar is up first as well as the site selection for Empire.
It's truly insane that we've reached here, and not only reached to the point where we're at the maximum map inside of a best of 3, but also that we're here on Coastline. Honestly, I was sitting in the green room this morning and talking to Pangu, and him and I both did not think this map would be inside of the map pool, just because of the history with these two teams on this map. But we're here, and it's live. Not only that, I personally think that this is one of Shepard's best maps whenever he plays for Empire. It is truly electric what he can produce here, but we'll have to see what they can get done. All the cards are on the table for both of these teams. Pull out all the stops, pull out any weird strat that you have, because it all matters right now.
Important to note, of course, once again, while we are not going to have any upper bracket advantage as far as I'm aware inside of the grand final, the advantage you will get is the fact that you don't have to play that one additional series in the lower bracket finals as well. That's 3 more maps you potentially get to hide, 3 more huge strategies you could potentially keep in your pocket heading into the grand finals if you're not forced to thrust them out here in this series. Both teams want that honor, but only one can walk away with it.
And don't forget this, if you come from the lower bracket and that goes the full breadth of that best of 3, you have a possibility of playing 8 maps of Rainbow Six in a competitive setting in a singular day. Let me tell you, that is so unbelievably strenuous. The amount of focus it takes just to complete a best of 3 at this caliber of play is insane. And now, with the start, we already have Merc here on the double window for Pen. Can he get the kill onto Scyther? He's dancing back and forth.
Scyther?
Finally, he'll pick him up. Scyther, he's out on an island, and he's dead there.
Scyther just can't find the rhythm of that fight, unfortunately, and they're peeking at all the wrong times and directly into the bullets of Merc, who's now just going to hop off the big window rappel and rejoin his teammate Achieved on the roof here, since the all-clear signal has been given inside of the master bathroom. Still, you can see drones positioned on the inside of the penthouse as well to try and make sure that no one else from Empire would have potentially tried to rotate in after the death of Scyther. Not going to be that bold on the Empire side of things. They're going to keep it a little bit closer to the site and play entirely downstairs now.
Yeah, and for TSM, they're going to be bringing in some unique things as well. Obviously past the smoke ban that they applied to Empire that'll assist them in planting. They also have Dokkaebi in the lineup. Dan also being down from a long angle here from Bolo. He'll be able to take control of the kitchen space now as they look to pick Dan back up, and hopefully they do so. These my discs mean so much to the situation in the current moment, as he's the only person that can deny frag grenades for the defense.
The amount of harassment coming out from TSM right now, Empire needs to give some respect over to these attackers, but at the same time, need to try and waste out this clock a little bit. TSM have gotten way too much far too early on in the round, so it's a bit of a perplexing scenario here for our defenders as they're trying to toe the line between both their defensive capability in the late round as well as the capability to even get to that point in the round due to how many players and how much health they've already lost there. Most recently seen Always take a bullet or two there to chuck off about 25 of his HP. Things have slowed down though. It looks like Empire getting better control over their positioning, or at least what's left of it now as we enter the final minute of play. And TSM are a little bit more uncertain of themselves as they go back on the drones for 3 of their players to suss out these downstairs positions.
TSM not looking to overstep, also getting some solid intel as to what's going on inside of the site. Bolo with the possibility of another here as Shepard steps up, but he's only going to take a little bit of damage, but it's starting to add up here on the Empire lineup. Achieved, he's going to throw an uncooked nade down low as the swing comes through, and Shepard's going to win it out. Unfortunate for Achieved as he was simply not ready for the swing, and this timer now dwindling low. TSM needs a plant, or at least a space, in order to achieve this as the suns start to pour in. Always, he'll be able to find one inside the lobby, but the damage now coming back onto Empire as Dan will fall, so will Shepard, and Joystick and Always, they're all the way across the map, but luckily enough, Joystick, he's worked his way back in. Bolo with the oversight, though, as he'll be able to take down Joystick. It's all left up to Always, but he doesn't have an angle to stop this plant, and it's looking more and more like a TSM round, unless Always has more to say.
Good start to the 1v4 clutch, at least, as he cuts the head off of Chala, but 3 more players to knock out, and barely any time left to get himself in position towards the site. This move from Empire to try and get aggressive against the lobby hold, to swing back around towards it with 2 of their players, might have sealed the deal for TSM as it left far too little presence on the site. They had the capability to delay, and it looked like they were going to be able to waste the clock down, but not anymore after they swung those players towards security. TSM open up the floodgates to Sunrise Bar and work themselves into a first round to start this map out with them in the lead.
Merc with the immediate pick, and then a fantastic working of the map coming past that from TSM as they clear out the entire top floor, force Empire back towards the site, and start dealing some serious damage to those site players, making it so very difficult for Empire to try and come back. Yes, they were able to get some serious kills like this on Shepard that really should have never have happened, but past that, it was TSM getting away with so very much as Empire with a lot of missed positions inside of that as they tried to fight back against TSM.
Not to mention Empire with little to no respect for the intel game. You could see it, especially with Bolo's kitchen clear. He knew where every single member of that team was in sight there. Even though he wasn't able to necessarily leverage kills earlier on once he had taken kitchen control, he still knew how to play it out perfectly. And despite that, quite a few members of Empire trying to take challenges. It worked out well in the initial cool vibe swing due to a slight mistake from Achieve, but after that, and especially inside of the early round as well, they gave over far too many fights far too early on, and that's how TSM was able to control the round with such grace.
Loving the adaptations from Empire, though, after that last round. They want to try and slow down TSM as they recognize that the execute was still on pretty low time. So they're going to have Dan come through with the EDDs and Capcan to try and deal some damage to TSM as they clear out this map. It's down to the drone game here to not only suss him out, but see if any of these are on the door frames so they know how to operate around this top side of the space. So here for Empire, they're going to try and hold things down across the map as well as they've destroyed the double bar here. Dan trying to sneak through the cracks, but can't in the current moment.
Around his life, so he doesn't want to stick around here for too
long.
Oh, it's a good thing as well. Joystick with the lineup from the inside of Sunrise. Dan as well, catching Merc. The tables have turned, and yeah, it's a bold play from Empire to cause this lack of disrespect, but this time TSM does not have the intel to play off of, and they pay the price for it, trying to set their foot inside the building very early on. They get tripped up as both Bolo and Merc are lost just seconds after the round gets started.
Fortunately enough, they will be able to deal some damage back onto Joystick, but he's going to hold on to the Sunrise space for some time. Only 50 seconds off the board, although 2 TSM members have already been killed off. So now for Empire, it's sticking to their guns and trying to delay this time as much as possible. Fantastic kill there from Dan as the duel went down inside of blue as well as we get that on the replay. But now TSM, they've got some serious thinking to do. Empire's been able to hold on to most of the map control, and that's where things get difficult here on Coastline, especially as that timer continues to dwindle. Chala knows that somebody's more than likely inside of this office space, but it's more of a recognition between the two as they know that they have to try and compete for this area. Dan more than likely have audio on that player rotating in whenever Chala chooses to do so, as Joystick continually holds thing down inside of Sunrise. A stun in, a kill for Joystick as he's looking for even more. Knows that there's one more inside of this space as the stuns came through, as well as that frag grenade, but the damage is already done, and it's looking to go Empire's way.
The aggression from Empire working out hugely this time. A good trade finally found from Geo, but it's such a small gesture at this point in the round. If they can get another one, okay, we're back in play. With time starting to get low, it's going to be tough for them to look for that without risking their own lives. We see Scyther at the top of Cool Vibes catching the exchange onto Geo. Now Chala left alone with a 1v4 set before him. He's already been found out due to that evil eye he looked at. That blue glowing light in the background has given him away, and already you can see members of Empire starting to crunch down on top of him. He's aware of it all. Good read so far here from Chala as he tries to pre-fire in against Scyther's position upstairs, but not going to be able to find him so easily, and always finally meets the match needed to shut down this round as a quick response is picked up from Empire, and we go into another tie at 1-1.
The audible here for the kitchen defense from Empire looks dastardly as they take down two TSM members so very early, and that basically was the script that we followed throughout the rest of that as well. Joystick just being the constant member inside of Sunrise, especially putting a thorn in the side of TSM that they simply could not dislodge. Some fantastic kills as well as nades abound being used on him, but it seemingly didn't matter at the end of the day. He just kept removing these heads from these TSM members and just put them into such a dire situation that they were never able to come back from.
So let's get into it. Round number 3, the third and possibly final site of Empire's defensive rotation. They're going to head upstairs into hookah and billiards. Keep in mind, of course, Miro is left out of the ban pool for defenders, so she's going to show up finally inside of this site hold. It's going to give some dangerous angles over to Empire here, as well as some utility clear that TSM absolutely need to knock out if they're going to want to be able to properly push themselves into a couple key areas of this site.
Yes, indeed. We'll see if Empire also wants to extend out some of these reinforcements and use them inside of the VIP space. We've been seeing quite a few teams reinforce the double wall and make the entry point over here a lot harder to get into. You have to prioritize using the guitar door then instead, and that basically makes it a funnel. So it makes it a little bit easier for the defense to be able to enact things upon you. So we'll see exactly what goes down for Empire, but as of right now, it's going to be an extension, but it's not going to be into VIP. They're going to move reinforcements all the way over into theater to make sure that the penthouse space isn't as safe to take for TSM.
TSM taking a much slower approach this time around here. It looks like, once again, looking to try and bleed out some of these early seconds of the round to find any more extended or out and about members of Empire. Not going to be too many of those either. They've got a good support system set up for their extended play over inside of Penthouse. And of course, the site itself will be plenty well reinforced and set up for trays. They're getting a little bit adventurous though, peeking out the big window inside of billiards, trying to see if anybody could be spotted from TSM near ruins, but not so much to be the case. Bolo in the meanwhile self-inserts into kitchen, but that's really just to take care of the default cam. I believe he quickly rotates back out and is going to regroup with the rest of his team over here at the platform outside hookah.
Well, the hookah window now being manned by Merc as well as Bolo. It'll be popped open. Merc going to take so much heat, or rather Bolo instead on the rappel, as Dan will take him down. Bolo just not ready for someone to be on that angle as he gets up and onto the hookah balcony. Extremely unfortunate for him in the moment as TSM are just going to give away the opening frag.
Bolo maybe thinking that he wasn't going to recommit to the angle there after the initial peek, but unfortunately Bolo locks himself into the animation just as that swing works its way out. See that one more time on the replay too. A good kill is found here by the members of Empire to start themselves on the right foot. At the same time, look at all these flashbangs. What is that? That's almost every single flash. In fact, it is every single flash available still to the attackers there. They quite literally dump the entire load inside of the site. And unfortunately, not to too much effect aside from knocking out a couple pieces of utility here.
Such successful defense from Empire thus far, and Joystick now in such a pivotal position. They'll be able to get rid of all of the X-Kairos. They don't need impacts anymore. They just need Joystick to stick around. And he gets rid of all of those X-Kairos down to 2 for Geo, so he'll launch even more at that mirror window. Achieve down low now. Joystick's been downed upstairs as Chala's actually worked his way in and found the man from Sunrise instead. But look at this timer right now for TSM. Yes, they've been able to secure Joystick, but they need even more. Unfortunately enough, Achieve will gift it to to them as he takes down Shepard.
TSM say, okay, you won't let us in on the horizontal plane? Fine, we will take it vertically as they're going to go for the artillery strikes from down below here. Knocked out one player and is down to second. Joystick here. Not going to be able to more than likely get himself back up. I say that, but Dan's certainly thinking about it as he's got the rotate position to open up. And oh no, always nearly having his life taken away there a second ago also. Both him and Dan with a sliver of HP to play with. And here comes Chala up the blue rotate here. It's a flurry of kills for TSM and it's not going to stop. 4 in a row to shut down this round as they take the lead again.
It's a terrifying opening for TSM as Bolo goes down, but luckily enough, they clean up shop. Empire just thinking that they can walk right into their own site, especially with all these crosses that are dedicated from TSM, and they time and time again get damaged by this. Also forgetting that TSM have control down low. These frag grenades work themselves through, achieved with the depth charge from underneath to take out Shepard in such a pivotal position as well. Very well done from TSM as they'll take the lead yet again.
For Empire, it's back to where they started, though, into the double bars, and this does not guarantee success for them, as this initial round was taken by TSM. However, a lot of that due to the fact that Empire wanted to take a couple of these fights earlier on, so they had to start that round out, if memory serves me correctly, down from a 3v5 at the very beginning of it. That's a quick and very easy correction to go for on the second play. So TSM might have to do a little bit more work this time as they go for their own second attack here.
Also here, we won't have the evil eyes any longer for Shepard. He's going to be dedicating himself to the Echo instead, which honestly is a fantastic audible given the fact that the smoke has been away for him. He not only will he have a deployable shield, but those yokais can obviously stop the plant as well as assist his teammates in getting some extra intel. So it's going to be a solid pick coming into this lineup. Past that, everything else making quite a bit of sense, especially for Always' sake, as he will be bringing in the Banshees.
So with TSM in charge, the question now becomes, can Empire keep up pace here, or are the attackers going to continue to run away with this lead out of the first half here? 3 more rounds still to decide that. 1 more full go of the sites for Empire. More than likely, no repeats with the way that we've been seeing Empire play these out, even with the potential losses coming in for TSM. Away from that, though, TSM still going to look to try and negotiate for their initial positioning and finding it a little bit harder to get it this time, but also a bit more of direct play coming out from them. Already up against the pool door, trying to clear out this utility stack, and there we go. Bleeding out the ADSs. That Wamai not catching that frag grenade there, and you can see the top right corner of the push. That is going to open up the capability for them to pop open this rotation hatch, but of course they still have to bleed out the defender's impacts, as we're going to see both Dan and Always bring those in here now, trying to delay the opening.
And past that, we have TSM prioritizing a couple of different means in order to get towards this site. Not only that, but we also have some presence over on the east side that could be working its way in a little later on. Dan with some very serious contributions, but Gio will be buffed back up from the adrenal surges from Bolo, so he'll be healthy here in just a moment. Fortunate enough for TSM that they still have Bolo on Finka, so be able to use that and hopefully get Gio back towards 100% HP. First phone call out here for the Dokkaebi as Chala will be looking to start clearing this top end. Actually, second call here as he's just down to 1. Able to burn out everything with those stuns, but now the shotgun coming out for Joystick as he's manning the stairwell and doing it well, and he'll take down Merc.
First kill found, a little over halfway through it, with Empire striking true this time to knock out Merc. Mixed results for him so far inside of this series. Bolo and Achieved are the big players on the field, and just as I mentioned his name, he strikes true here, catching a trade onto Always and equalizing the player count, just as time is going to start to get a little more stressful here for TSM. A few more members of Empire needing to be dealt with before they can contend directly with the site play. However, most notably, of course, Dan, positioned here inside of barrels, and possibly going to have 2, if not 3 members of TSM bearing down on him in a moment, but he'll also have potential support coming out from security. Not going to need it to start this, though. That's a clean headshot to eliminate Bolo and knock him out. But like I said, there's 2 other players that want him dead. But no, Dan fends off the second player working his way in from service. Actually, it's one that came through the front door. The service player, Gio, is able to finally catch the exchange against him, putting TSM back into somewhat palatable position at a 2v3.
Empire's been fighting so hard on these defensive sides, and it's finally paying off as they have the man advantage going into the last 30 seconds. TSM have so much to do, and honestly, they really don't have the manpower to do it. Achieved is going to have to get so many kills here while Gio tries to put this plant down, and Empire in some very pivotal positions. With only 10 seconds remaining, Gio works his way in and starts to plant on the couch for Sunrise. Shepard taking a lot of heat now as he moves through. He'll take down the member, and that's more than likely going to be the round as Achieved tries to jump in. He can't even find yet another player of Empire, as Empire will indeed take this round.
The retry on the double bars plays out for our defenders, and that's going to be dangerous here as TSM has to try and steal another one away if they want to keep things even as we inch towards the end of the half. Deadlocked these teams are at a 2-2 scoreline. Neither one having serious contention to run away with the lead at this point. Things started out perfectly for TSM, but the responses, just like back on Bank, have been so swift from Empire that TSM cannot find a solid footing to get themselves ahead of the Russian machine as they try as well, just as hard as TSM is, to take that first spot in the grand finals of SI 2022.
Well, if Joystick was the man to line it up, Dan was the one to seal it away inside of that round as he made a grand stand inside of the kitchen area and was able to take out quite a few members that were pivotal to TSM's overall attack. We'll see if they're able to do it again here in round 5 as we head back to the kitchen defense where they found success the very first time they went here, and it was led off by Joystick as well. And speaking of Joystick, his opening bloods have been truly insane throughout most of this series. It's really been him as well as Dan that have been able to find their mark quite often, always as well as Shepard finding one each inside of this series so far, but Joystick especially at the top of the hill here for Empire inside of the opening minutes of the round.
Empire bringing back the Capcan operator we have not seen since map number 1 here for our defenders, and one that they're certainly going to try and use to clear out or at least catch some of this early action from TSM, especially if they're not going to be checking those doorways. We saw at least one member of the team fall victim to it back on Bank. Empire looking to make it 2 on this round here as Dan is going to set up a couple of these kill boxes for himself.
Yes, indeed. These EDDs can be quite the nuisance, as we've noticed inside of these couple of maps here. Dan going to be starting us off inside of Office and looking to see if he can get the lead off pick yet again, but already some pressure around the space as the double window will be popped. Merc will be covering the blue bar area back and forth, but what a shot from Dan. Barely any damage on him as well as he removes the head of Merc on the blue window, and he looks for it yet again. Pre-fires as well. That could have been the demise of TSM there in the opening 40 seconds.
1.5 so precise, and Dan is showing us just how to use it here. A perfect opener against Merc, and he's still got a possibility to go for number 2 here. Another member of TSM 2, in fact, potentially swung out against him. It's all a matter of whether Dan can line up the challenge properly against the attacker's angles as well. So we'll come back to him in a little bit. There's some action being thrust against Joystick, nearly having a nade connecting onto him here. Needed a little bit more time on that fuse, and if the Bank went out, might as well have taken down Joystick and given TSM their first blow. It's going to come from Chala instead, however, as he's able to finally trade out against Dan over towards Office, who found the first kill of this round. A Nitro in, and man, Bolo's got a lucky star watching over him as he just barely survives that. And now, due to Office control being contained by TSM, they can pinch against Joystick and prevent any further action against Bolo.
Apparently that lucky star happens to have a name, and his name is Geometrics, let me tell you, as he's able to find that frag inside of Sunrise. Achieve now taking a lot of heat, but do they know that he's actually inside of the site? No, they don't. Shepard, he simply walks back to the rotating, gets taken out, but so does Chala. He's been downed, and now Empire, they have to work their way back towards Kitchen, but where's the case at? It's currently on Geo, and Geo's nowhere near the site. They're over inside of Sunrise for the time being. Chala's down inside of the Sunroom space. His Scyther will take him down, but they still need this plant.
2 blundered intel plays and a lost 1v1 have cost Empire tremendously inside of the 5th round here. TSM does not have full control over it just yet, however. You can see always still going to try to delay things from upstairs. That could be a powerful position. However, where's the counteraction to the plant? It's going down and no one's here to stop it. Here comes Scyther though. He's dropped 1. He's going to give the planter a chance to refrag, but it won't happen. A 3rd kill is picked up by Scyther, and now Achieved with less than 5 HP has to clutch it out in the post plant. Scyther and Always on the other end of this one, and in just a second, they're probably going to jump onto their first counter defuse. Achieve, though, has the counter angled for this, but does he have the reads on these last 2 members of Empire? Hasn't been able to find out the positions of either one of them, but he's working on a big flank to try and catch them right now. They're looking for him as well, but neither one going to be revealed. There's the spam. It gets them off plant, but Always has got the catch. He's going to knock out Achieved, and Empire will take the lead.
An incredible round here from Empires. They're making Coastline work on the defensive side, something that none of us expected when looking at the stats for this map. But as I said before, throw the notebook out the window, folks. You don't need it here. They are pulling out everything they possibly can up against each other in the moment. And with Dan hitting shots like this, TSM, you're going to have to do something else to push them in the grave.
See here once again how much of this round was really being set up inside of this the first minute or so. Looking like TSM had the advantage, but Empire never giving up an inch despite the disadvantage and player count thrown against them. Scyther is the hero as he swings himself back downstairs through enemy territory over by the double bars. That's a part of the map that had been long lost to TSM inside of the first minute after those first 2 to 3 kills had gone off, but still he retakes it, waltzes right in, picks up 2 additional kills, and then sets himself up with his teammate to retake the site there. Achieved, unfortunately, not able to fight it out at such low HP. He had to take a slow note about it, but just could not find a winning angle against either of the members of Empire.
Well, if the last handful of rounds were a battle, this is looking to be a war. Look at what Scyther's brought here. He's got the Thunderbird inside of the lineup now. They're looking to get feisty up against TSM, and they've already been taking the fight to him as well. This is going to help them out even more, as we've seen some of these rounds make it down to where Empire, yes, they're able to secure some kills on TSM, but their health is so unbelievably low that they can't take other gunfights that are pivotal to picking up their round. So Thunderbird is going to help out quite a lot in this situation.
See where those are going to be positioned down at those Kona stations for Empire, as they'll be incredibly pivotal to deciding whether, once again, Empire has to fall entirely back to the side or if they'll be able to play inside of their extended positions. Keep in mind, of course, a little risky to leave them too extended from the site due to the fact that attackers can use those stations if they're left in the open also. TSM will certainly take that if they end up close on the first gun duel they get themselves into. Want to try and reboost themselves should they lose any HP, and they'll be more than able to if those Kona stations are left out on the ground. For Empire, though, doesn't look like that's going to be the case, as all 3 will be locked right around the site play area. And once again, with that 1.5, we saw how pivotal it was for him to line up that shot at the beginning of the last round. He's looking to do it one more time here on the 6th. Knows he's got a challenge inside of service. He's going to try to throw out impacts to catch all these drones. Doesn't know exactly where they are. I thought for sure that was going to be a headshot, but never mind. It's Bolo to get it a bit more quickly instead as he knocks out Dan. Always there on the countered angle. Nearly catches the trade on the Bolo, however, but no dice in knocking him down. He's just going to have to fall away from security after the initial volley of bullets.
Olo hits the deck, trying to keep himself alive before this adrenal surge comes back off of cooldown. He needs some HP inside of this situation, and look at this shot from Bolo. Ended up getting hit in the shoulder there instead of the head. Very unfortunate for Dan in that regard, but now TSM, they've found their mark, and they're looking to take this round and equalize.
Half the round gone, though, and TSM only just starting to get themselves into the building, specifically over towards service. They need to circumnavigate all the way over to Cool Vibes and keep pressure in from Hookah also. A big checklist still sits in front of TSM, so while they have the player advantage, map control still needs to be gained. A second kill, though, is going to thrust that forward to a huge degree. And let's make it a third, why don't we, as Bolo gets his own personal second. Only the anchors left alive here, as Joystick and Shepard are going to have to defend either one of the sites. As time gets low here, TSM does not feel the pressure. They know they can just throw bodies at the site and more than likely win it, but they'll have to be careful, though, as they've made that mistake in prior rounds here and still ended up losing it to Empire, so it's not secure just yet for our attackers as they look to equalize it at 3-3 in this final round of the opening half.
Some terrible things could happen in this moment here, but Merc, he's going to make sure that they have some Overwatch on this. He'll make it down and do a 5 versus 1 here. And that's a flawless as Chal is able to find the last kill for TSM. We're deadlocked at 3-3.
What a nice shot from Chala as well. Keep in mind, again, the Mark 14, not necessarily the easiest gun to work in those kind of awkward close-range scenarios, but he immediately snipes out the Mozzie and locks in round number 3 for TSM. Barely losing any players or any health on the way here. So they played off their intel, are able to isolate out Empire player by player, giving us a show we hadn't really seen since the first round there, but certainly a confident play on this attacking side to even it out. Now they're on the defensive end of things, though, and this is where they'll have to seal the deal, needing 4 out of 6 of the remaining rounds to lock in this map.
Can TSM do what Empire could not on the defensive end? We'll have to see as we get things started here for a kitchen defense for TSM. Now, some unique things working their way in here for TSM, specifically Merc on the Vigil that we did not see the entire time for Empire, but one that we usually see for Merc. This is definitely one of his favorite operators when it comes down to it, and we'll have to see if he can possibly run things up against Empire in the opening minutes here for round 7.
Lineup for TSM is not going to be too surprising. It'll be interesting that we see the Cade come into play. However, can be quite useful for locking down a few of these walls, specifically the one we're going to see utilized upstairs here. Potentially allows that extended position to last much deeper into the round, and tucking it in between the floorboards. It's going to hopefully keep it alive here and make it a little bit more difficult for some of this utility, notably the Twitch drone, to knock it out. There's an experienced player though, so shouldn't cause too much of an issue for him. And at worst case, can chuck a frag grenade at it and get the job done the old-fashioned way. It will be problematic, though, to get a frag in that specific position, considering it's directly above the site. So let's find out how Empire are going to look to go for this clear and specifically flush out the VIP position for TSM.
Cheat will be manning white stairs for now, as we are used to these defensive teams on Coastline holding map presence. It's what you need to do at the end of the day to make sure that the offense doesn't just walk inside and start breaking up the floor and making the map difficult to play for you overall. Merc will be holding on to Theater for the time as Empire are working their way in over here in the office space. Scyther's still on the roof with Geo up top here near Billiards as they continue to try and hunt down drones and see where this entry point is going to be for Team Empire. But for them, it's still down to this info game. They want to make sure that this top space is clear. Also got some drones spinning up inside of Sunrise, and it's going to be Bolo to try and head this off for the moment.
Knocks them both out, and now 3. Man, Bolo is just feasting on drones right now here as Empire throwing everything they've got. Already half their drone count to use. That Magnet's going to eat this one up. Bolo's going to run a little bit further away, and now dodge another one here as the pressure comes out against him, but he's able to contend against it anyway. Joystick falls. A second player still ready to move in through. Pool door is always ready for the re-challenge. He's scared to go for it here. Bolo's been unstoppable in these power positions, and he's looking to line himself up with a double again at the beginning of round number 7.
Doesn't want to slow down just yet. Play out that timer. Do not peek, especially with Merc in this position. He'll be able to try an assist here as Dan tries to fire through the wall, but look at all of this time that they've now wasted, and Merc, he's just going to swing him instead. Geo takes down one as well as Merc tries to swing through, but it's Bolo that takes down Always as they dice up Empire inside of Sunrise. They can't have any of this. TSM knocks him out of the building, and now it's just down to Shepard inside of a 1 versus 5.
The quote Canadian, you try getting him out of that position. You try flushing him out there. You try throwing all those nades at him. It doesn't matter. He's ready for the challenge regardless of the circumstances as Bolo holds the line yet again, this time behind the Sunrise bar as a first round is picked up from TSM, and now they take the leading round away from Empire. Will we have another volley of exchanges though, or does Empire have something to strike back with here as we get ourselves into the second hole, which is going to go directly into the blue bar?
What an insane stand from Bolo there, and one that was desperately needed for TSM. Empire so close to knocking him out of that Sunrise position, but as soon as he gets that first blood, everyone on the TSM lineup builds in around him. Merc gets up into couches. Geo moves over to blue. It's so very difficult to try and get around this space and continue to work it, especially when you have Merc shooting back against your Finka player that actually does get control of blue. It's just so hard fought in the moment right now, but what can you do against this? That's the real question, but luckily enough, you and I don't have to answer it. It's down to Empire to figure out this offensive side.
Empire, we can see from these replays here, tunnel visioning a little bit as players like Geo are able to waltz right up to big window, catch a player trying to peek in through Sunrise as they were so desperately trying to find a pick against either Merc or Bolo there, but could barely even get themselves into the building, let alone maintain any positioning. TSM with the lead, and now we're going to see some big operator changes as we move over towards the blue bar hold. Pulse is coming in for Geo. We're going to see the Frost Mats back at it again for Bolo. The Castle's back in play for Chala as well to block off some of these access points. Should be a very winning lineup, though, for TSM, especially if they're able to put their early round foot forward and shut down the members of Empire in the first minute or two, as we saw back on the previous round.
Well, now for TSM, can they continue the climb here? Round 8, will it be in their pocket, or can Empire equalize yet again here? Going to have the holds dedicated upstairs here as we are into double bar. You need to hold on to that hookah area, and that will be the job of Achieved and Merc in the moment. Merc will be playing here inside of Drinks, right, and behind Billiards. Drone out for Shepard as well as he will look to see what's going on inside of this top space.
All quiet on the front, though. Neither team able to find anything inside of the first minute. Merc knows there's drone presence inside of Aqua, but he wants to challenge directly against it despite the door being open. Only knows about the one drone. Things will start well for Dan, however, as he's able to find out Shala, knock out the extended position of the castle, and remove him from play at any point in the late round. Of course, we'll see Shala contribute in other ways here from the intel game, but for now, he's done inside of the server itself. Joystick looking to wrap himself up here, already having the intel as the Merc, but Merc still wins out the initial fight. Thankfully, Empire had an insurance policy in the form of Shepard on the outside rappel. He'll quickly trade that back out, and Empire still in the lead here now to 4v3. And he's seen another player from TSM flushed out of their extended position. Achieved. Not going to feel confident to play over by Cool Vibes. He heads back to Kitchen.
Empire have so much time to work with here as well. They can just dedicate this to droning and seeing where TSM want to try and hold things down. Obviously, Geo will still be inside of Sunrise, especially with this cardiac sensor. Might be able to find a pick that they desperately need, but he's just going to look to see if he can possibly set up a nitro cell in some space to be able to get this frag. Well, waiting for the man to fall off, and what will happen to our Buck here is he's right on the edge. Geo, he's going to put away the cardiac sensor and always gets blown sky high. That's the equalizer that they desperately needed.
Geo will just fall back into the relative safety of this bunker setup behind the B chassis. Shepard, though, wants to breach it back open. Is there utility for the defenders to knock it out? It's not necessarily looking like it here. No impacts and nothing to stop that opening from going through here. More than likely going to cause a move for Geo. In fact, he actually eats some of the damage from those X-Kairos. About a third of his HP, a little less than that, going away from him here as that hole is opened up. But did he stick around here? Looks like he has. Going to maintain this position. He still has a slight corner to play for him. Really banking on the fact that no one from Empire are going to pop that window open, though this is still a very dangerous position. But so far, reading it correctly as he shuts down Dan, and there's no Overwatch to trade him.
Nothing to do now for Empire. They need something serious in the moment, and luckily enough, it's a trade from Scyther as Shepard takes down Bolo. It's up to Achieved in order to get this done. He swings through. He can't find the initial frag, and it's Shepard with the secondary SMG, the Bearing 9, able to strike true here and equalize us yet again.
Very, very close for both teams inside of that round, but TSM just a tad too aggressive with their positioning, not accounting for the quick rotates to come in for so many players, especially over towards the pool door push in those dying seconds of the round. And as a result of the later rotates from the kitchen hold on TSM, they cannot get back into the site in time to stop Empire from establishing positions that they needed to shut out those last two players. It's Empire right back into tying contention here at 4-4 for both teams.
You know, this is really starting to look like a map that we watched a long time ago, John. I want to kind of teleport you back to SI 2019, where we had the longest coastline ever, which was 22 rounds, and Empire actually took part in that, for those that don't know, up against G2. Luckily enough, this cannot possibly happen here. We definitely have the opportunity to go to overtime, but we do not have the opportunity to continue on into that infinite time frame. There has to be a winner here, and we might have to use the full breadth of rounds to do it, the full 15, but one of these teams has to give. Who is it going to be?
Well, the ball is in Empire's court now to try and repeat success, as these teams have been going back and forth for some time here, and the scoreline has reflected that, with only at most a one-round lead going up on the board for either team here at any point during this map. TSM looks to try and trade this one back out in their own flavors. They now go into a hookah and billiards hold here, and of course going to extend horizontally quite a bit to try and waste Empire's time, specifically with their initial clear towards VIP and Hall of Fame and the penthouse position that Empire will more than likely want to try and take for themselves. They're already working on that one. Geo contending against. This is the snipes out the first drone chucked in against him over here by the front stairs window. Wild Nitro goes sailing out that window as well, but to no real success here, as Empire have moved away from that, and they're going to try to handle things a bit more vertically, as we can see two players on top of the bathroom hatch.
Looks like Empire wants to deal with this area a little bit more direct than we would expect initially here for Hookah. A lot of teams looking to just prioritize getting things set up inside of the Aqua space, but they want to play into TSM's hand over here, so let's see how strongly the defense can hold up. Bolo will currently be inside of VIP, manning the guitar door as Empire continually tries to get more intel onto this location, but the mute jammers are working out so very well for Achieved at the time, as he's going to be able to slow down this info game, at least in the moment. Joystick, though, he's already worked worked in under the site. In a certain sense, as he's inside of Kitchen, be able to get rid of the default cam here for Jungle, but achieved he could play spoils as they haven't discovered his location just yet. Currently over here inside of Security and has an opportunity to make some very nice flanks.
Half the round now gone here. Empire still looking to reposition a few of their players. Dan now wanting to harass from the hookah rappel window. See if he can find out any of the members of TSM from there. At the same time, they're going to crack open the corner that would normally become problematic for that player on rappel, and thankfully, for their sake, find nothing there. The rappel yields results as well. Dan gets himself off of it onto the platform over by balcony, and that'll allow him to find the cross against Chala, netting Empire the first kill of this round, and hot on the heels of a second here as they're going to try to isolate out Bolo, but he's playing it safe now as he knows he's lost his support.
Scary situation now, but he's got one impact to be able to get rid of at least this set of Exkyros. Shepard has so many, though, and that's the big problem. Gonna set out a 2-set here that will end up popping that wall open, as there's really no answer for the defense any longer. Dan trying to hold the rotation here for Vibes as well, so there's no escape for the time being for the base player unless he wants to try and rotate to the other side or remove the head off of Always. That always works too. Geo now will be holding on to Billiards here as they've slowed up Empire's offense, but oh no, Joystick on the back end. He'll take down Merc as that will remove the 90 player, and he'll take down Bolo. Empire's got the Overwatch, and they've got the round. Back to back yet again here for Empire.
It all came down to those final 1v1s and just far too many of them falling into the hands of Empire. The site control, which was looking good for TSM, falls to pieces off of the back of that great flank coming in through 90, and the other players taking solid duels past that point also. Empire now in pole position here. Only 2 rounds needed to close this one down, but we only have 3 rounds remaining here, so it's got to be nearly flawless from our attackers from this point forward if they want to close this down. If not, overtime will be on the cards to settle our first grand finalist.
Yes, indeed. So we are at 5-4 score line here. TSM with so much to do in the moment. But fortunately enough, history may repeat itself as the first half of this map, Empire was the only team to go back-to-back on rounds for their second and third rounds. So we could see that yet again here. TSM could indeed bounce back, get 2 rounds, and force us into OT. We really just don't know. There's so many ways that this could break down, and I think this is a beautiful moment for this tack timeout from TSM.
The pause call has come in from Pojo, so TSM going to try to break things down here before it gets too far out of control. Already in the second half, so no side switch to fall back on here. It's all about how this defensive side is played out. Thankfully, we are already through the tactical pause. We're in the replays. It got started, guys, so not going to need to sit on these cameras for too long. The countdown has already resumed, and we're heading back into it as TSM have a kitchen and service defense coming up right after this pause to see if the insight from their coach as well as the discussion from the leadership team in-game is going to yield any results.
I don't know about you, but if there was one grand final that I could just close my eyes and pray and get inside of our Sunday matchup, it would have to be this. I'm being so serious. I want a full breadth best of 5 between TSM and Team Empire. These two teams have been so much fun to watch inside of this series so far, and not only that, but they've reached this moment right here on Coastline, no less. 5-4 in favor of Empire as we come off of the tack timeout. And for TSM, a lot to do yet again, as we were talking about previously. It all starts here on the kitchen. Defense, what's the change up for them? Well, not really too much. They're still going to have Merc on the Vigil, who could play spoils around the map if he so chooses. He's been firing on all cylinders when it comes to this map. Kind of had a fall off there for a moment inside of Kafe, but wasn't really needed that much in the grand scheme of things. Now it's down to him to try and assist, but oh no, the early damage already coming down is achieved, has been dusted. Where is he at? I think he's over on White Stairs, and not like this. Please, Dan, not like this, as the Twitch drone continues to tick away at his health.
Doesn't do enough anymore, unfortunately, so not going to fully knock Achieved out here. We've seen Joystick take quite a bit of heat now that Chala, I believe, has the Overwatch for the front door also. Achieved back in the fight here, and Chala swinging out to try and find that player just below the front stairs rappel window. Not going to see either team, though, yield their first kill, as both Joystick Low HP as well as achieved. Revive back up, are going to keep themselves into it. Joystick nearly lost, but the real story is Merc coming back into it here and locking down the first real kill against Shepard.
Joystick on such incredibly low HP as well. And Empire, they haven't been using Finka at all throughout this best of 3. So they won't have those adrenal surges, and Merc's got another kill. Oh no, not like this, Empire. Merc now with a 2.0. If you want to throw the assists in there, he's doing even better in the moment. Bolo, though, will finally go down to Scyther as Empire find a response.
Big mistake in the intel game there for Joystick specifically. For those who caught it mid-reload after he popped the door open there, completely exposed to the swing from TSM, and an easy kill for Merc to be able to negotiate there. Empire, once again, having trouble keeping up with the constant rotates that TSM are throwing at them. This mobile team is constantly finding the opening kill and oftentimes not leaving a window for the trade to come out either on the side of Empire. It's TSM now 4v3, still over a minute to go though. That is plenty of time for Empire to course correct, especially with them having proximity close to the site now, starting to clear out the second floor hold, and more than likely in a few moments getting access to either the main stairs or the Cool Vibes rotate.
Not only that, but it is eerily quiet around the map currently, but the stun will break that up. Currently coming in on to anyone here, as always, just trying to see if he can possibly pick up a free frag in the area. He'll try and pack up that stun grenade, but fortunately enough for him, no one currently inside of this area. But might end up running into some problems now, as we still have a Geometrics all the way up inside of the bathroom, but it's Merc instead. He is just running amok of this entire offense. They can't get in front of him. Dan has to kill him here, and he does, but now that will give up where Dan is as well. He's at the front door, and achieved. He's going to be able to play this out. They have no idea where he is. The Nitro cell out, but it's not going to do much. He gets stuck to the top of the door, and he's dead. It's a 2 versus 2, and the plant's going down for Scyther. Dan wants out another kill. It's a triple for him. Chala has to clutch things up like he's done all year for TSM. It's slowed down inside of stage 3, but they need him here inside of the upper bracket. Can Chala get it done with the 81? He steps up to the plate inside of Kegs, has some damage with the impact, and it's looking doable in the moment. He needs to win one of these gunfights, though. There's 25 seconds on this clock as he shifts back into stalls. He knows one's got to be around the space, but he sprints in. Whoa. He finds Scyther. Can he get it done outside, though? Oh, what a great move here from Dan. The window will break up, and he knows that he has it on time. Chala! He gets it done, and TSM equalize.
TSM, I thought the round was done and dusted after that perfect comeback from Dan, fragging his way into the site and opening up a path that no one saw coming for Empire. But still, the clutch is there for TSM. They bring it back. They equalize yet again, as this scoreline cannot contend for either team. It's 5-5. No one with the lead as we go into the last 2 rounds of regulation.
I'm gonna have to take this jacket off, man. I'm getting hot. I'm getting hot watching this game right now. I'm not even in it. I mean, we are on the precipice of such an electric matchup here, folks, especially on Coastline. Merc is just giving them the business time and time again on this roam. But Empire, they fight back in such convincing fashion, especially inside of the 2 versus 4. What a nasty round for both of these teams.
Empire refusing to give up even when the odds are stacked against them. Beautiful play from Dan. Perfect smoke to block off the crosses and make sure he would be able to isolate the 1v1 versus the player behind check-in desk as well. But Chala, so wonderfully played, catches Empire just when they were the most vulnerable, just when Dan had gone for the rotate outside to try and establish the final position needed to shut that down. The first duel is his, and the second one is just a matter of timing as he shuts out that last player. And you can see the hype from these guys as that one is stolen right out of the hands of Empire and restored for a round that TSM ultimately, to be fair to them, should have closed out much more convincingly in their favor, but still, it ends up in their pocket, and now we are tied yet again here as TSM move to another new site into the double bars.
Double bar here for the second time as they continue their site rotation. Obviously, it'll be the top hold for them, but past that, TSM need to get ahead of Empire on this entry, and with 15 seconds already gone in the round, Empire's right at the gates to Coastline as they'll be looking to entry into this map. Look towards Geo to try and find some extra insight on this situation to assist his teammates, specifically Merc, who once again has been just so influential inside of this game, and he'll look to do so yet again here in round 11. Bolo almost with a beautiful shot through there, but unfortunately for him, Empire's member on the other side of the gazebo outside.
Timing seemed like it was there too, just off by a pixel or two it seemed, or some lucky coverage blocking off Dan's POV. Either way, both players are going to choose to back away from each other. Bolo wins this ego duel for the time being here, as a member of Empire will step away. They've got things to take care of. They've got utility to clear. They don't want to necessarily throw themselves into a losing battle, especially against Bolo this early on, as he's been so hard to clear out. Even with the bit of a mixed personal scoreline that he's got there at 7-7, his hard lock positions have just been so arduous for Empire to clear.
Great read here from Geo Pulse, showing exactly what he's so good at inside of these rounds. Some early insight, but now Joystick, he needs to win this fight. Merc doubles back, and they deal just about the same amount of damage to each other. He's going to move in behind the Aqua Bar, but he's been stunned out. That's such an easy kill. The team play from Empire on the roof. I mean, it's going to bode so very well for them as they take down the top frag for TSM.
Bolo looking to try and find some revenge, though. He's rotated back up, but Willie reading into the pack. There's two players here. No! You mentioned it before, and it sticks its ugly head out against TSM again. The intel play, too strong for Empire here in round 11. They snipe out a second kill now against Merc. That's two of the biggest fraggers, two of the biggest impact makers on TSM, down for the count. And they're going to have to try and bring it back on a 3v5. The only good news, we're down to less than a minute. And Chala, he's contemplating this swing out. There's another player that's going to cross right against him. Are they ready for the fight? Oh no, Chala backs away from it too early, so Shepard survives, and always they're on top of the hatch for the refrag, but Achieve refrags himself as he's able to find Dan at the bottom of Cool Vibes.
Now with only 34 seconds remaining here, something has to be done. It's all down to Achieved. And ladies and gentlemen, do you believe? That's the real question. The plant going down now as Empire has amazing Overwatch for this. And always, what a time to be alive for an Empire fan as he comes off the top rope and ends his existence.
Hip fire shot as well to line up that last one. Beautifully done by him. So we go all the way to the end of regulation. It's match point on 12 for Empire, with only one opportunity to shut it down here in this round. If TSM volley it again, we are going to overtime to find our first grand finalist here at the Six Invitational 2022. And what a statement from Empire on that round to respond to the clutch from TSM. They were angry about the loss back on round number 10, and they did not want to have another one like that unfold.
Time and time again, a round like that can mean damnation for your team as the egos just deflate. You can't get anything done. You're worried about what the other team can do to you, but Empire, they don't stop. They trudge along on the warpath here and finally reach match point on Coastline. They could end it all right now on their offensive side unless TSM has something to say about it.
With the intel play we saw from Empire there, the swift droning as well as just the constant countered angles set up against every single aggressive swing TSM wanted to go for on that previous round. The odds don't look good here. TSM may have lost their early round edge. If that's going to be the case, the late round play has been mixed at best, so they will not have a lot to fall back on. We could very well be looking at a 7-5 victory from Empire if they can repeat the same success. Obviously, a different site to play at. We're back upstairs now inside of Hookah Billiards, an area where Empire has struggled tremendously with the early clears.
And for TSM, you have to be worried in the moment because the boogeyman has just came out onto the field. Empire, once again, looking to end it all right now. Not too big of a change up inside of their utility overall. We'll still have Joystick on the Yana. Dan be playing on the Twitch in the moment as they've struck true often enough to make things so complicated for this defense. And just look at how fast they're entering this building. Joystick already in down low and on the hunt for a TSM member.
Lining it up, trying to read into predictable rotates. Not looking like it's really going to catch anyone from TSM, though. They're playing this entirely upstairs, at least for this first minute or so. We might see players try to get flushed out from their positions, specifically there towards Penthouse. Later on, before the time being, Empire is satisfied with the Overwatch they have. This is going to be an attempt to catch the player upstairs and also deal with that Electric Claw, rather, but it's actually going to miss. It's a little bit too far to the right there, so won't actually find it, and that'll be a big piece of utility into the dumpster for Empire.
It's super smart for TSM upstairs. They break open the flooring and then put the Electro Claw at the max distance away from the wall. So it's very hard to predict for that frag grenade. They simply ping it out on the location they think it's going to be, but clearly not there. Now the Gemini out for Joystick as TSM have been able to slow them down on this clear. They really don't know where any of these members are in the current moment as they've been able to hold on to this top floor. And as this timer continues to dwindle, it's going to get harder and harder for Empire to get anything done.
Empire with the initiation rate here, but at the same time, no early kills to fall back on. Lots of presence being found for them specifically underneath of the site, but again, it's always that transition, that ascent or descent that teams have to go for on the attacking side that gets them. So that's when they're finally going to meet their opponents against their positions here inside of some gun duels that, for the most part, Empire have been able to avoid up until this point in the round. Scyther potentially lining up one of the first ones here. He's going to chuck a drone in, masks it as well, gets it to the inside. So that's going to find out where Chala's at. He falls up with a nitro. Oh, and they're going to get each other. Chala hits the button, dials the number just in time as Scyther chops his head off with his final moments of life in this round also.
It's the dead man's hand here as it just blows him sky high. But Joystick finds Merc, who's stepping up a little bit too aggressively here inside of the space. And now for TSM, 40 seconds remain from them in overtime or going to the lower bracket. Bolo will be able to get rid of the drone initially here as Empire starts to push themselves up the stairwell. It's a stun out here from Always as he tries to have some influence over this space. Shepard also putting the plant down, but will he be able to stick it? He will, more than likely, especially after Joystick takes down Bolo, and it's a 4 versus 2 going for TSM into the post plant.
Gio's out in the open, but now down on the ground here. Achieve with a position in Cool Vibes, though. Catches one of the members of Empire. He's got so much to contend against, though. A direct fight at the top of Cool Vibes is waiting for him here. He spotted the player in the corner of his eyes, but it's not going to be enough. Always shuts it down. And Empire are your first grand finalists of the Six Invitational 2022.
What an insane series between these two. Empire, a team that at the very start of SI 2022 was a big question mark. How will they play here? How will they do? Well, I'll tell you, they're going to make it to the grand finals and be the first one in order to do so. As for TSM, their only path forward is through the lower bracket,
where they now must contend against the winner of our second matchup coming up later today between MIBR and FaZe. The winner of that matchup now has to go against TSM for the final spot in the grand finals. Will we have an EU versus LATAM matchup or versus North America for the rematch of the upper bracket finals? That becomes the remaining question of both today and the early portion of tomorrow, with Empire moving on victoriously as the first team to the grand finals.
What an amazing showing from both of these teams. But obviously for Empire, it was truly a nuts series. Both of these teams taking each other's maps. A 7-2 loss to TSM on Kafe that presents us Coastline, where a lot of analysts thought TSM was going to take it, and a lot of times it looked like they had what it took to take the map off of Empire, but such a hard-fought series from them and an amazing Coastline propels them forward as they will be our first team to enter the grand finals.
That last map was a gamble for both of our teams. Looking at it once again there, TSM had very few plays on that map, when only was able to clutch it out 7-5 both of the times they played it. So while yes, the win ratio looked good on paper, there was plenty of room for them to potentially be knocked out there, and that's exactly what Empire was able to do. Only inside of those final 2 rounds, in my opinion, did they really lock it in, though. That intel game, as well as the leads that they were constantly having over the rotates from TSM, catching every single aggressive move, specifically Bolo, who had been absolutely lethal in his early round positions at every single map and every single point up until those final rounds. Finally, we saw Empire countering him out, as well as the rest of the squad. That'll do it for the 2 of us at this event, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to send it back down to your analyst desk to break down this series.